Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese episode 363. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Zellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. I don't know if it's the muscle memory of all this, Matt, but I almost said this is episode Matt Zellner of the... I don't know where my brain was
It's
about
2020.
to take all that.
You're allowed to do that.
I texted you that I had a laughing fit, realizing that Black Friday is like 3 months away, and the 3 months feels like it's just tomorrow, which, I don't know. I mean, joke of the year, haha, this time,
What is
concept of time, but like, I
can't
have
wait
no
to
idea
see.
what's going on anymore.
I can't wait to see how we try to do this one.
I just stay inside, man. I'm just gonna hang out and eat pumpkin pie.
I know how I'm doing it. I just don't know how others are going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. How's Matt this week?
Fine. Another week.
Do you have your Black Friday calendar countdown started up on the wall?
No. I did hang my first thing ever on the wall, though.
Oh.
Yeah, I finally used a hammer and some screws. And
the Jack Trenton Championship belt?
no, not yet. I have plans for that. I'm waiting. I'm trying to get some. I need a frame. Two, I want some other posters, like where my computer is or something. With frames for those, of course, because this isn't college anymore. It's got to look somewhat classy.
Yeah. Somewhat.
Yeah. So, and I put a nail into our bathroom wall to hang a sign. It was awesome. That was
Nice.
Tim the Tool Man, you know?
Rocking it, man.
I had my denim cutoffs on. I had my good belt. Got that good flexibility.
Yeah, you got like a leather tool belt going on. You got the boots on. Did you rock the boots for this?
Just imagine Dennis Reynolds and the Extreme Home Makeover.
Okay.
That was the style I was rocking for one nail in the bathroom.
You got to go. Look, if you're gonna do it, you might as well do it right. That's the way she goes. Matt, we got a good show this week. Got lots of skateboarding video games to talk about. I think we both had some trouble with personal computers we're going to get into. We've got people leaving companies, people joining companies, updates to video games, hot action lawsuits coming at you.
Love a good lawsuit.
But first, we both played Marvel's Avengers from Crystal Dynamics, published by Square Enix. The last weekend, the closed beta for PS4 pre-orders happened. Just now, this most recent weekend, the open beta for PS4 has started, or ran, and then the pre-order beta for Xbox PC is happening. And then next weekend, if listeners are still enthused to try it, it's open for everyone next weekend. So you can do that. I think before we jump into impressions, I want to just describe kind of the setup of what's going on in this game, at least from how they've presented it here. It seems like this is what we saw the first taste of at E3 at that first showing. It sounds like what we've played in this beta is what the press got to play at like a behind closed doors event last year during, I think, PAX or one of those. Basically, the game starts out where the Avengers, the main core five that they're running with here, Black Widow, Captain America, Iron Man, the Hulk, and Thor, are all called. There's Avengers Day, and they're celebrating everyone's, yay, thank you, Avengers, for being the Avengers. An attack on the city happens, and now the Avengers have to respond. And within about 10 minutes or so, maybe 20, you run through playing as each of the main five, working your way across the Golden Gate Bridge and fighting enemies as they come at you. And it kind of gets you to the point where you get to play through each character's core moveset and then jumps you to the next one. So you start with Thor. He's got his hammer. He can hit with his hammer. He can then charge the hammer and whatever. Every character seems to have a light and a heavy attack, and then you start to get combinations of powers and abilities that you use that all tie into the character. I guess that's kind of it.
I mean, I think you got it.
And then after that, we jump ahead in time 5 years where Captain America's dead. And yeah, I mean, he'll come back.
Yeah. Like the Avengers don't save the day, and it's actually their technology or Stark Tony Stark's technology that was used against them. So San Francisco was mad at them. It caused some kind of like plague that gives people like super powers. The scientist that was I don't know his name. Yeah. Some scientist that was with the Avengers has bought up everything and started this tech company, but they seem to have shady like undergoing. So it seems like the first mission after the intro bit is like you trying to find Tony Stark's first this like archive underground bunker thing with Bruce Banner, and I guess from there you'll build back up that base.
Yeah.
And become the Avengers. Hooray.
Yeah. And I don't like the game.
Nah.
Generally speaking.
Neither do I.
Huh?
Neither do I.
Yeah. There's a lot that I don't like, and it's more than just because I obviously lean DC when it comes to this stuff, but I've always appreciated Marvel heroes and its stories and characters, but it's like I think the character designs, and I'm not talking about like the face or anything like that. I just mean like the costumes themselves, that stuff. Like none of it is drawing me in a way. It's just like it all seems like just a cereal box. Like I don't know. It's just boring.
Like cookie cutter. Like they found a genre. They know what works nowadays, and they just kind of cookie cuttered around that. They didn't like expand upon anything. I will say, like, as far as like positives, that game is running a lot better than I thought it would be. I guess the delay has worked there. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm thinking like the framiness from that E3 presentation, and not just on our stream, like the apparent framiness.
Yeah.
And I was actually quite shocked at how well it ran with all that commotion on the bridge as you're kind of crossing. I was like, okay, I'll eat crow on that one. The game actually works. But then you start playing it, and like you said, it's all cookie cutter.
It's really shallow when you're playing it. Like there's not a lot of depth to the combat. Even when you start to unlock some of the powers, like when you get to Captain America, where he screams "Mets, Dodgers, 1984," and then he unlocks the Brooklyn Brawler thing. That even that power up, or having like Hawk's power ups, things like that, I don't think that it necessarily changes the gameplay. Like you are forced, I'm not trying to be completely reductive here, like you are forced to do some things. Like later on when you do the Abomination boss fight, or even before that, there's like a couple heavy enemies you fight as Hawk, who you do have to be kind of clever with how you maneuver around them, pivot, jump out of the way and everything. But generally speaking, it just felt like the enemies were coming at me and I was knocking them out of the way and fighting them, but there was never any real direct threat. Or I don't know about how I'm trying to explain it. Like it felt like the enemies weren't fighting me. They were just set on a script to run that script and not react to what I was doing necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I just felt like I was mowing down enemies just because you have to in a video game at points. Like especially the second mission when you're the Hawk and you're running through the AIM building there was a couple of times where I just got lost for a hot second in the level design, just because it was just waves of enemies after the waves of enemies. I eventually found my way back around, but like.
No, I did not like the way that level was designed. I did not like the checkpoint system in all of this. Like if you...
Oh, I never died, so I don't know.
I would miss a jump here and there, or I would...
Wait, I did have something. All right, go ahead.
Like those things, you know what I mean? Like just like missing a jump or running into a section and then not realizing that there's a turret above me that's shooting at me and slowly killing me, or those types of things happening where like I'd have to respawn or whatever really sucked. Because there's one part where it happened when I was playing as Kamala Miss Marvel, where I missed a jump and it picked you back up, just kind of like fade to black, cut back in, and you're standing where you should be standing. But every time it happened with Hawk, it was like, okay, let's go to a loading screen, let's show you a tooltip, let's wait for 15 minutes, and it was, boy, that was a ball.
On the bridge, I missed the jump with the Hawk.
Yeah.
Then this is early on because I didn't quite get the scratch. I didn't realize the scratches were there even though they said it. And it cut me back real quick. I was like, oh, all right, that's smart. But then I did it later. I missed a jump, and it was like a 30-second loading screen. I was like, why is it here and not there? And I don't know. Like,
yeah, no, it was the same thing. There was no real rhyme or reason to why it worked sometimes and why it didn't others. It was frustrating.
That was the only part there, like, I really, like, kind of, like, I guess, quote-unquote, like, died or whatever, so I don't know how the rest of the checkpointing really worked.
There was one where I made
normal.
it all
I just
the way
wanted to
up
get the gist of the game.
aim tower, and then got killed by something, and I was all the way back at the beginning of the aim tower. And I was just like... the one thing that really, really got to me was the dumb video game logic that you had to adhere to, where when you're playing as Miss Marvel and you need to go around and hit the terminals to unlock that one door, you hit the terminal 1, door doesn't unlock, enemies come. You hit terminal 2, door doesn't unlock, enemies come. You hit terminal 3, door doesn't unlock, enemies come. You defeat the enemies, and now all of a sudden the signal gets sent to unlock the door. Like, just stupid like that. Like, I get it. Like, how about before I get to that thing, then you show the enemies or something? I don't know. That there were little things like that held me back.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like I can excuse that in different. Like, I excuse that in different games. So like that would be me nitpicking at this point. But like,
but I think after like playing it and being so done with it and like being exhausted and like trying to find a redeeming quality, it just kept showing me things that were not fun.
My problem. Then this is like my analogy for the game. It's just an unseasoned piece of chicken.
Yeah.
Like, you get your nutrients. It tastes like,
Yeah.
But, like, it could be a lot better.
Yeah, totally. That is a really perfect analogy for this. It's just bland chicken. Like, it's fine. You're going to eat it. You're going to be full at the end of it. But, man, if you just mix a little bit of, like, cayenne and cumin or something, like, you could have a hell of a time. And I think that was the thing here is, like, there's a lot of attention to detail with respect to each character. Like, the abilities you start to unlock, I think the skills you have at your disposal, the costume pieces you're unlocking, like, all of that stuff is really, really strong, and I think important homage to all the characters that pays respect to each character and the super long history of all of them. And I think that, like, the general combat and the active combat works well in theory and in moments, but I think generally speaking, like, interaction with enemy AI, movement through the world, all just feels kind of clunky. It feels kind of bogged down in ways that it shouldn't. Like, I feel like everyone kind of moves the same, which is weird to me. Like,
yeah, that was like my issue with the game, and maybe this is just because we're so early on, we haven't gotten skill trees or whatever. So like, I'm maybe willing to forgive this, you know, if I saw gameplay like 5 hours in or whatever. But like, you know, I really wanted like distinct differences in the characters. Yeah. Like, I wanted Hawk. Like, Hawk kind of did feel big and strong, but that, you know, Thor also felt that way, and to a degree, Iron Man felt that way, and even Captain America kind of felt that way, and like. Yeah. And that's where I kind of fell off the game. I was really hoping that like each would have. I know it would be a lot to ask for, like 5 different systems in one game. Like that's way too much. But you know, just tweak them enough where they feel more different than they did. Like, you know, maybe not each one has a light and heavy attack. Maybe that makes sense for Bruce Banner and the Hawk. But when you go to Captain America, like maybe he has more of like the Batman combat system, whereas a lot more like parrying and dodging around. They started to hint at that when he told you like roll over the shield. I was like, all right, I know this.
We're gonna
but then
it
didn't expand upon it any. I was hoping like Black Widow would be like a really fast like Catwoman kind of thing. Like, I know I'm relating this back to the Arkham universe, but like I'm thinking of all like the ways that like how Catwoman and Batman play so differently within the same game, and I'm not getting that here.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be hard, right? And I think the fact that they're going to add so many characters to this means that they had to limit what they could do. And I think the fact that, remember, the one piece of this that kind of turned me off from the beginning was that if we're playing and Iron Man's our favorite character and we level up our Iron Man, so our Iron Man's super dope, and then you and I are like, dude, you want to do co-op? Well, only one of us can be Iron Man. So I think that the fact that every character kind of needs to have a core input and a core, like, you need to have that base knowledge across any character so that you can kind of jump in and out of characters on the fly and encourage people to play other ones or force people to play other ones in certain circumstance.
I think you're going to get the force. I think you're going to be forced that through the campaign, because we already got a glimpse of that, like after the
for sure.
Thing.
Yeah. And I would want that too. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to just play as one of them. I think it's too. I think there's a lot of. There's a lot of cool opportunity there.
But then you're going to have those people that, because, this is a live, or it's going to end up being like a live online game. Like, there are people that stick to one character. Like, like even in games like Overwatch, where like levels don't necessarily matter. It's just your just general knowledge of the character. Like, people are like a Mercy main, and that's like it. Like, maybe another character, but that's like, they're like a little bit of a one-trick pony. So yeah, that's going to hinder, I think, a little bit some things too. And I think and this is what I've been reading conjecture, like the problem is when a new character comes out, you're never going to be able to play as that character matchmaking unless you organize it with your friends in a way.
Yeah, because everyone's going to jump right to it and try. Yeah, that's... the final thing, I mean, you mentioned the Arkham stuff, and I was trying not to compare so hard while I was playing it. I was trying to like give it value on its own, but I did restart Arkham Knight this week. So having it so fresh and being so immersed in that combat, like, it was hard not to think about, how is Suicide Squad going to play out? What is that game going to be? Boy, I hope it's not like this. And it sucks because it's like, you think about like, okay, I trust Rocksteady to make a solid game because they've made solid games in the past. Mm-hmm. But I also trust Crystal Dynamics to make a solid game because those Tomb Raider games were nothing bad, right? They were really good.
I never played the last two in that trilogy, but the first one I loved.
The final one was not even Crystal Dynamics because they had moved on to start working on
that's right.
this.
It was
Eidos,
Montreal.
But the second one was still them, and that first, and I didn't make it all the way through that. But what I did play of it, like, they felt really good to play. Lara felt like Lara Croft should feel, and it's not to say that I think the characters in the Avengers don't feel like they should feel. They feel kind of there, right? But it's just, I don't know. Here, what I will say in closing is I think that fans of those movies, like the way that I'm kind of like blindly into certain things, the way that if this were, honestly, swap the skins out and dump a bunch of DC characters in here, and I probably would sit there and button mash at it all day, as I think boring as it is, just because I have the affinity for those characters, and I'll kind of dive into anything in that universe. And if you're that way with the Marvel characters, I think this game's going to be great. Right? I think that you can easily jump in and get a lot of fan service out of it. I think I started to see some of the pieces where you're collecting fragments, so you can augment your gear, and like all of that kind of Destiny stuff that I'm like, I'm really...
Oh, it is definitely leaning into that.
Yeah, and I'm definitely leaning far away from that stuff the more time goes on. So I think that all of that's there, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for someone to really dive in and just have a lot of fun. The skill tree, like the stuff that you started to unlock as the Hulk, at least, but from what I saw there, it was like, it's really, there's a lot of attention to detail that I think works well for a superhero game. I just think that it's boiled chicken.
One last thing before we move on, I actually kind of like the setup. As someone that doesn't like lean into the comics, I kind of get my Marvel out of the MCU, the cinematic universe, but like it was actually really, really refreshing to see Avengers without the mention of Thanos at any point.
Yeah,
and so like I just feel like from like the general audience part of that, like, you know, not everyone reads comics, so like I feel like the story setup was actually, you know, it has its similarities to what happened in Infinity War with like the whole skipping of the years, but like I know I kind of wasn't like I can kind of get into the setup, and it puts itself in a good way where like AIM, like the company AIM could be like always around in this world and set up like there's a great setup for a live service game, and I like how how all these people are gonna have superpowers because of this outbreak that was caused by the event. Like it's really, really good. It's just I'm not. You won't see me playing this. Not for $60.
I think that they do have a really solid thing here, more so than I thought they did prior to playing it. Just don't. With the amount of time in a day, if I were in high school and this came out and I just had nothing really to do outside of a part-time job in school, like, yep, sick, sign me up. I'll get lost in this forever with friends. But now, juggling time as it is, just not going to happen. If you have impressions about Marvel's Avengers that you want to share, I want to hear them. Podcast@thefreecheese.com is where you can send. Let us know what you thought of the beta. If If you agree, if you disagree, tell us why. I want to know. I really do want to know how people are reacting to that game. Matt, last week was QuakeCon 2020, which I believe is the 25th QuakeCon. And I thought that because there wasn't a ton of stuff to talk about, we should celebrate Quake with 5 facts dispersed throughout the episode here. So we're going to start with Quake fact number 1. You stop me. Well, don't stop me. I'm going to say the whole thing, but hopefully I can teach you some new fun facts about Quake along the way. First public mention of the Quake franchise was inside of the Commander Keen Trilogy collection. There's a memo entitled Coming Soon from id Software. Inside the memo, there were details of a game called The Fight for Justice. It's defined as a completely new approach to fantasy gaming. You start not as a weakling with no food. You start as Quake, the strongest, most dangerous person on the continent. This was kind of born out of a D&D campaign that John Carmack ran within id after hours while they were all hanging out. Because remember, they were all like working together and friends and hanging out. So they had a D&D campaign, and that's where the whole Quake RPG stuff came from. And it was originally designed not to be a shooter. It was designed to be an open-world RPG that I think the likes of like a Skyrim probably later started to achieve, but that was kind of what they set out to do initially. It just by the time they got the engine tech put together and everything, it was a little bit more difficult. Then they were running out of time to get something put together in that 3D engine, so they had to pivot and make it a shooter. But that's kind of why, like, the shooter you're playing has weird knights and medieval fantasy stuff, because a lot of the art came from that.
I'm going to learn a lot today, because I am not versed in my Quake lore.
Well, yeah, we're going to learn some Quake stuff. We'll talk about Quake. We got 4 more facts to run down through the rest of the episode. I think a lot of the stuff, too, you can learn by reading Masters of Doom, or hopefully soon watching Masters of Doom if it airs, when it airs. I think that's still happening. That James Franco, Dave Franco co-produced joint. Matt, it's time for another edition of our weekly segment, Who Would Win in a Fight? I'm not letting you pick this week, Matt.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to lay it down for you. You ready?
Uh-oh.
Who would win in a fight? Big Daddy from the BioShock series, or Albert Wesker from Resident Evil?
Oh, man, this is tough. I'm going to say Albert Wesker.
And why?
Not to spoil any Resident Evil games, but especially the end of 5, Wesker can do things.
Okay.
Because he has the virus inside of him.
There it is.
A Big Daddy I can melt down with a machine gun if I had so many incendiary rounds.
Yeah, you just need to dodge and avoid and all of that. You don't think the Big Daddy could get the slip on Wesker at some point?
He's too slow, although he can push a boulder.
And he can charge. He's got that charge. What about a Big Daddy from BioShock 2? You know, when you become the Big Daddy, right? You've got those?
No, but the Big Sisters? They fuck.
No, okay, so I should have put Big Sister in as the option.
Yeah, they fuck. That would have been a little bit more. Dude, that was the best part of BioShock 2, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, they were creepy and cool. Yeah, I'm excited to see what that franchise does next, now that they're working on something. We've got a lot of skateboarding stuff to talk about, Matt, but first, really quickly, I should have mentioned it last week, because by the time people were listening last week, they could have gotten ready for it on Friday. But this past Friday, our good friend Ben, who longtime listeners know from the podcast, released his death metal band released an album. The band is called Visceral Violation, and the album Carnival Cannibal, available now on the internet. Buy it, stream it. Don't do like that one guy did on their Facebook group and send them a message saying, just pirated your album. I don't know why you would do that. Listen to it. It said, I think the whole runtime is 19 minutes, so you can knock it out 3 times in an hour if you want to. It's death metal, so if you got to be into death metal, But if you're not, I mean, my mom listened to it. Certainly not into death metal, but she listened to it and she said
she's
sounded
not.
like... Huh?
I was gonna maybe she's not listened to it 3 times in an hour, maybe like a song in an hour, you know?
Yeah, she said she pieced through it, but she said it sounded like Halloween music and she liked it. So
there you go.
There it is. No, it's really, really good. And I know they worked super hard on it. They've been at that for a while. So give that a listen. Visceral Violation, Carnival, Cannibal, enjoy. And one day, maybe he'll end up in a Tony Hawk game. But before we hear about the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 warehouse demo, crack open the last can of pussy.
Oh, congratulations.
From the refrigerator.
Or I don't know. That's congratulations.
Oh, it tastes like my birthday. All right. Matt, I got way back into session this week. Twofold. I was having trouble. Okay, so let's back up. I wanted to buy Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 on Xbox because I've been playing things on Xbox a little bit more recently than other platforms. However, to me, Tony Hawk is always synonymous with the DualShock controller. Just those buttons make sense to me. So I was kind of worried that it would feel weird. So I took a spare Xbox One controller up to the PC, paired it, and played Tony Hawk 3. Just to get a feel, will this work? It worked. I'm down. I was sold. I'm good. Ready to make my purchase. Now I'm here at the PC. I've got this controller hooked up. Let me dive in and play some session. Fire up session. I hit A to skate. It says go skate. Press A. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
Welcome to the PC.
Dude. An hour that night, an hour a different night of uninstalling drivers up. Now remember, the controller worked for other games. It was just in Steam. Steam was loading a weird custom configuration that I had applied for an 8-bit do controller and putting it on the Xbox controller and then not letting it work at all. Then somewhere through troubleshooting, the keyboard stopped working, Bluetooth keyboard stopped working until I hit the Alt key and then it started working again. So Alt somehow triggers shut off the keyboard. That's a magic button to do that, apparently, via Bluetooth. It was a mess, but I eventually kind of got it working, sort of, maybe. I don't know. I've been afraid to... The thing that seemed to be breaking it was if I needed to adjust volume levels and I tried to pull up Game Bar in the middle of playing session, it stopped accepting input from the controller after returning from Game Bar. So I don't really know, but... The thing I walk away with reminded of playing session, because I played, there's the game trial version on Xbox, and I think I'm probably going to end up buying it on Xbox while it's on sale there as well. This game still, it feels exactly what I want a skateboarding game to feel like. It feels like you are skateboarding, and there's no more natural way to control a skateboarder in a video game. And I've been out a little bit skateboarding myself, and playing this game has then made me feel more confident with my own feet on a skateboard. Stuff that I was always kind of like, how do you do that? How would you do that? I'm understanding a little bit more because I understand what my fingers are doing, so I can apply that to my feet in a weird way. Fingers and feet, they're not that different. Among the kind of the weird bubble of skateboarding that's been happening in the last week and prior, I jumped back into Skate 3 because I was like, oh, yeah, let's play some Skate. And I can't do it. Not at all. I went through and the session muscle memory is kicking in and I don't know how to play Skate and it feels weird. And I was like, okay, just, you gotta reset your brain. You can get back into this. And I kind of got it and I was going and it was like, it doesn't feel good anymore. Skate used to always feel weird to me coming from Tony Hawk, but then you kind of get used to it. Now I'm so used to session that session is not just natural, but also, I think, objectively better. Maybe subjectively better. Let's go with objectively better.
Okay.
I think it's a smarter way to approach skateboarding video game controls.
You're talking pure gameplay, though, or the package?
Pure gameplay. No. A Skate still has what I want Session to eventually have, right? I need some real goal markers. I need some things to do when that game hits its final release. I watched some of Skater XL that just got released, and that seems to be doing. They kind of aped the Session control scheme and then hit market first. So I think that Session's being a little forgotten right now. But Skater XL doesn't have a ton of the challenges they have in that game are really just to pull off tricks, but not necessarily like hit specific lines and things like that, where I feel Session has a cool thing where there's historic moments embedded in the game and you kind of discover them by accident, or you can go on Steam and look up a guide. But basically it's like doing specific flip tricks into specific grinds on a specific spot. And it's like, hey, this is a famous thing from this skate video in 2003. So you can kind of move around. I think there's like 50 or something throughout the whole little Brooklyn area that you're skating through. I want to see some of the, I think the humor of the Skate series is still unique to that series in a way that I don't know if I want replicated in a modern skateboarding video game. I would accept it, but I think it worked really well for that. But yeah, the actual skateboarding input, I think Skate 3 feels weird now. And I'm wondering what they're going to do with the next Skate in response to how Session works, how Skater XL, like there's competition in the market now.
Yeah, that was going to be my question to you is like, with Tony Hawk coming out, Skate is back in the news because they're going to have a game here in probably 10 years.
Yeah.
And then, the new one, Skater XL, like, the Session getting lost, I feel like it is. People have been talking about the Skate XL. I know Tony Hawk Warehouse demo got a huge bump in press coverage and hype and all that stuff. I know you're about to get into that, but like, I'm concerned.
I think Session will get another hit when they update. They're really slow to update, and I think that's something that's holding it back from being talked about. I think also it is really niche, like really niche. Skater XL is getting some buzz because it was released, so I think people are talking about it. But I think Session ultimate. I didn't play Skater XL. I only saw it being played, but I think I like Session better for how grounded it is. It's still, it's like early alpha out, like it's super early. So they're not, and I think what Skater XL released at a 1.0 release for $40 is not enough. I think they have some cool ideas. I think being able to kind of quickly jump around the map is neat. I think some of that, but a lot of that's made its way into Session as well. So it's tough, but I think Session's going to get there for sure. The more they keep iterating on it. And I think that it does coexist with Pro Skater. I was kind of worried about that jumping in. I just said like I couldn't go back to Skate 3, so I was like, am I going to be able to go back to Tony Hawk? And I've played Tony Hawk since Session has come out. I've played the older games, obviously, but I was kind of worried about this new demo, like how is it going to stack up to this? And I think after playing Tony Hawk, especially this new Warehouse demo, I feel like I can jump into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Session the way that I would jump into Forza and Mario Kart. So going into Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 Warehouse demo, I wanted to answer the two questions I had about this game when it was first announced with Jeff Keighley a couple months ago. How does it play and how does it compare to the original? And I think immediately the game feels heavier than the original. There's more consequence to each action. Every time you jump, you are going to come back down. And this time I feel like you feel the gravity as you're coming back down, which part of me is unsure if you're feeling the gravity a lot more because my lasting memory of the older games is having a character who's already been leveled up with stat points and your jumps are going to be a lot higher. Your air time is a lot higher or longer rather. I don't know if it's that or if the game is genuinely a little bit more grounded. But I think, too, this game's much more fluid, much more detailed in the animation. So it looks more realistic, obviously. But in that, I think that it just inherently feels more like skateboarding in a way. Like you jump and you're going to connect with each thing. Everything kind of there's like a meaty connection between, I don't know how to describe it. It just all kind of pulls together. It's like, I don't know. It's like the difference between playing, I keep comparing weird games, but like, I don't know, when you play like a baseball game and you play Wii Sports Baseball. Like, Wii Sports, like, it works, but, like, it doesn't always feel like a baseball hit, even though you're pantomiming it a bit more, where, like, waiting for the ball to come down, lining it up, connecting it, the vibration in the controller, the fact that you timed it, like, those types of things that happen. I think that's kind of what we're seeing here in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2. Is it all just kind of stacks together in a way that just feels more like skateboarding does than the old games did. And I think it has a lot to do with character weight and gravity and things like that being added into it. Generally speaking, like, the animation, I think, adds a lot to each trick that happens, because you get to see more frames of animation happening, obviously, across each of the characters. When you do a finger flip, like, you see every little bit of it. You know, the board, you're always seeing it in motion. You're seeing how it reacts and moves with the character. I think there's just obviously so much more detail, and so much more detail that makes sense. The world itself in this warehouse demo, it's so different than the warehouse that you're used to, but it's still the same warehouse. Like, obviously the layout's all there. Like, there's so much effort that playing that level for decades now. Like, you just have a muscle memory to moving your way around that little area, and it still works here, but it's all contextually different.
How does Warehouse stand out, like, in level design to what, Underground 2? Was that the one that had Warehouse in it?
I don't remember now. I know what you're talking about. Like, they brought it back in a later one.
I think it was Underground 2.
I can't remember. I honestly, I'd have to go back and look at that one from when they remade it the first time. But this...
Because it was like that thing of like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. This is cool. It looks a little bit different, but this is it.
It still feels the same. I think seeing the character move in the world and the lighting, it's a shame I don't have, like, a good way to view HDR, because I can tell what they've done there, like, is probably pretty significant. A lot of the lighting effects coming in and everything, the way the lighting hits the character and the movement of the character, I think all of that really makes the world work together. So I think Warehouse looks great in that regard. Right now, there's not a ton to do, because you really can just do a 2-minute free skate. There's no skate to collect. There's no hidden VHS tape. Like, I went up, I basically did the whole run to get the high score. Like, I made sure I was doing all the checklist stuff in my head. It's not there right now because it's a demo. But I mean, just across the board, it works really well. And they've added, we knew they were going to add reverts to this, the way that weren't added until 3, but they would be retroactively fitted here. They also added wall plants, which I didn't expect. So those weren't in until, I think, 4. And I think 4 also had the spot where you could do, if you're grinding, you can kind of like mash a little bit and switch your grind mid-rail.
Yeah, that was 4.
And they added that in this as well. So you've got that and the wall plant at your disposal, which makes me wonder if they're going to add the skitching to like later levels where maybe there's a golf cart driving around or something, because that was also in 4. I don't think we need that, but whatever. If they do it, they do it.
You don't want to ride the tail of an elephant through the zoo?
God, that was the worst. I don't. I need them to stop at 3. We're good. But yeah, I think what they have here is a really solid foundation for a game. And as you're going, you're leveling up your player level, but you're also obviously going to start earning stat points for each character that you're leveling up. In the demo, only Tony Hawk is available. But I mean, you can go through and customize his moves, his specials. You have unlockable special slots. So you can unlock up to 10 special slots. You start at the base here has 5 unlocked, and then you can swap out what specials are available. But you can assign 10 different specials with 10 different button inputs. And it seems like each of those, along with boards, clothing options, they're all unlocked by doing specific challenges with each character. So there's a lot that they're going to have kind of at your disposal when the final game comes out, it seems. The opening bit I really liked, that introduces all the skaters. It's kind of like a montage that starts off showing Tony Hawk with this silent film grain, and it's all in 4:3 aspect. And then it just slowly kind of the black bars on the side creep away. It's 16:9, it's full HD, and you see one by one the cast of the original game, like each skater doing a little bit. Some of the footage it's old, and you can tell they've like cropped it a little bit to make it still fit the 16:9, even though it's not 16:9. Some of it's new footage. You can see like they're a lot older looking, they're a lot different looking, but it was cool. And then they pause like midway through it, and they kind of like do a little musical break, and then they show the new generation of skaters who are in it, and it like made me stop for a minute and was like, dude, a lot of these kids probably grew up learning how to skateboard or wanting to skateboard because they played these games. Probably definitely Riley Hawk because his dad. But it was just cool, like seeing that, and I don't know, there was like a weird little warm feeling I got there. And one of the skaters who was in the montage, and probably more than one, I just recognized the one, she was in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 and was like one of the ones that early when they were promoting Tony Hawk 5, they kept like showing her as like not the main skater, but like if they weren't showing Tony Hawk, they were showing her. And now like she finally kind of gets a good game to be in because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5 was so bad.
Wait, I'm thinking of this alternate reality world where Riley Hawk gets into skateboarding because he blows off a copy of PlayStation 1's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and he's like, Dad, I found this game that just has your name on it, and I like what they're doing in it. I want to get into this.
Because, well, all of his life, Riley Hawk's dad had this secret warehouse out back where he would go and skateboard, but it was always locked away from the kids. He didn't want the kids to know about it.
Now I'm thinking, like, did Riley Hawk grow up putting wheels on all the ride decks and learn to skate that way?
Yeah, one by one, he had to mount trucks into each one, and then I do like some of the stuff they've added to this game. They added like the other mechanics to a game that wouldn't have had them otherwise. They've added a lot more fluidity to the animation, but one thing I liked is when you fall, they add this new rewind effect. So it's kind of like you see the character almost like glitch on the screen, like, faux glitch kind of thing. But it adds like a VHS tape rewind effect with like the music kind of drops, everything kind of like gets weird, but the effect is only over the player character, not over the whole world. It's subtle, but it's neat. They added a lot more voice samples from, I don't know if it'll be like this for every skater, but for Tony Hawk, they certainly have a lot of voice samples for him. So like when he does a rad trick, he, exclaims as Tony Hawk. If he falls, he grunts as Tony Hawk. And you can hear that, like you notice it.
What middle school library do you think they recorded that one at?
Oh man, I forgot about that. Classic Tiger Woods. They went to Riley Hawk's middle school. They wanted to keep it authentic, so they went there and busted it out. But yeah, it's I almost didn't grab it because I was like, the game's out in like 3 weeks. It's fine. But I'm really glad that I did because I keep going back to it. Like I told myself I was going to play it like 3 rounds last night and then go grab dinner, and I played it like 10 times. Like I played for like 30. I was like, I'm going to play.
Wrong with that.
Played for like 5 minutes, go grab dinner, and it ended up being 30 minutes. Then after dinner, jumped in, played that Avengers, and after getting done the Avengers, like, I need to clean out real quick. I gotta fix my palate.
Hey, that's what I did. I played that little NASCAR Heat.
NASCAR Heat. How's that going?
Dude, it's quite fun. I didn't do the career thing. I just hopped into a single race. I think I was Joey Logano, the shell car. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just riding around. I had to bump up the difficulty.
Too easy for Mr. F1, huh?
Yeah.
What do we call you? The rally man?
Yeah, so I'm not good at qualifying, but I'm a racer, so I'm good with other tracks.
Sure.
I was getting that draft. Actually, there was really good draft feedback with the controller vibration. I was really shocked about. And yeah, man, I worked my way up from like almost last place to first in a race at I think it was Talladega. And I got to first place. I was like, I need a pit stop, so I spun someone out, got a yellow flag so I could pit under caution.
I'm glad it worked out. This is that free trial for Xbox Gold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on sale with this at the same time. My favorite thing is when you're loaded into a race, there are some load long times. I think it's just because it's on Xbox One S, but they have an ad for a gear stick, so that way if you wanted to, build the authentic thing,
Sure, yeah.
you can just go to that website, which I love.
While it's loading, go buy yourself
Yeah. Looks really good, too. That's all I gotta say, but that was my palate cleanser.
Yeah, you need to have that kind of just like, I need a break. Matt, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater out September 4th. I am counting down the days until that one. It's a return to a time from long ago, but, with a new coat of paint, a big coat of paint. I mean, they redid the walls. And I'm excited to see how they continue to reimagine something so classic and beloved and bring it into the modern times. Not unlike what apparently G4 is up to with this new G4 revival, which I don't think we talked about on air when it was first announced.
No.
But news is continuing to unfold about this. This week we found out that Olivia Munn is in final talks to sign a multi-year deal with the relaunching G4 network. Two individuals with knowledge of the situation told The Wrap, it's the website who got the scoop on this. The agreement deal will include a development deal and has both on and off-air components, which makes sense for her because I feel like she was a big part of G4 back then, but as an on-camera host, and I think leaving G4 when she did to pursue other acting opportunities, I think has given her various opportunities in different roles and different things like that. And I think returning to something like this, she'd probably want to do it on her terms, not theirs, which I think is cool.
I'm shocked she's even coming back. I'm to be completely honest with you.
No, yeah, because she has her own career now. You know what I mean? Like stuff that I don't even recognize that she's in or knew that she was in or doing. But it got me thinking, like, if she's coming back, I don't think Adam Sessler's coming back. He's doing his own thing with some consulting agency, I think. And Morgan Webb is at an indie developer. I think Kevin Pereira is still podcasting. Like, I think a lot of those people are there. I know that originally the first G4 announcement, Blair Herter was one who was going to be behind this, so that made sense. But what, for you, back then was G4?
Oh, and it was just, I remember, it was my go-to channel. I remember that. Like, I always liked the show Arena. I think that's where the birth of my esports came in and my drive to finally get a PS2 network adapter to play SOCOM and Madden and all that. X-Play, obviously, was probably like the one I religiously watched when there was new episodes to see what was worth getting on my limited, budget, to see what was good and what was not. I still remember all the backlash they got when they gave GTA Vice City a 4 out of 5 because it was so buggy. That's just the one weird random G4 memory. And then I remember hating for the longest time because I did not like the tech part of it. I just liked the video game part of G4. So Attack of the Show, and what was it before it was Attack of the Show? It was called something else. I can't remember it.
I don't remember anymore.
It's whatever it was before Attack of the Show. And even the beginnings of Attack of the Show, I never really got into until the later part of it. And then, as soon as I kind of got into it, that's when G-Force kind of finally started to wind down, I feel like. And then it became what is eventually ended up becoming Paramount.
I know it was Esquire TV for a while, and I don't know. But, yeah, I agree. It was kind of the channel to have on in the background. It was just kind of neat always having, well, they played a lot of episodes of Cops, so it wasn't just video game stuff, but I think that it was a good thing. You kind of always had something video game related to kind of have around. That was my first exposure to seeing E3 coverage and things like that. I think a lot of the stuff that shaped what we do week over week and all of that came from just having that around, that approach to things. Yeah, I think it coming back is weird because I don't have cable, so I sure hope it's not a cable channel anymore.
Yeah,
or if it is,
that I feel like they have to know their audience, right?
Yeah,
no one's gonna watch that has cable,
right? Yeah, no, and I think it comes back as some sort of streaming service, an app service or whatever. I think the idea is to, I would hope, put the archived content up, but even if it was just new content, I think, like you said, exposure to esports, exposure to things you wouldn't otherwise see. I think piping that stuff through would be really important. And I think that's like, I think about how would I engage with whatever a new G4 is, and I don't know. What do you think? What would you want out of new G4?
I don't know. I obviously I want some kind of return to form to what it was, but like again, like what it was didn't work for the station, or they have new expectations. That would be great. But like the I don't know if you call it scary or not, but like what I can see happening though is them making it a platform, and then this takes off, it eventually being the Twitch competitor that is kind of needed right now, because Mixer is not it. Because think about it. If you make it an app on like Apple TV, PlayStation, whatever, you get one of those things, if you can easily make streaming like part of like your live like section of it or
Sure.
whatever, like I can see where it can go and how it becomes a platform like Twitch. I just don't know how you start it. I don't know if you start it too original. Like I don't know if you bring back all the old shows. I don't know how esports coverage is now that like all these different leagues have streaming rights to different brands. Like I don't know how that works as far as streaming. Like do you do like ESPN where like they don't necessarily have the hockey rights, but they still show highlights on SportsCenter? Like I don't know.
Well, I know that this is being backed by Comcast, so they might have a little bit more of pull or throw when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, but it's how much money is Comcast willing to throw,
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends. Like, if they're going to approach it from the esports angle and take it that way, if the long-term goal is to spin this out into a thing where first it starts where maybe you have some sponsored streamers who are, on staff streaming X amount of time, and then you start to open that up to a community sense, like maybe it is something they put money behind. I don't know.
I mean, I would love to see. I think the staple needs to be Attack of the Show. I think that's what brings back like your old audience. I think they need to do some kind of news program like IGN's like Daily Live. I know like that's like a 15-minute thing, but having something like that, maybe stretch it to half an hour, bring in some weird coverage. Like maybe get a journalist or two to have them break news. I don't know. There's a few things. I
think a daily news show that you could air a 30-minute chunk of news each night, and then you replay that up until the broadcast of the next one, I think is super smart. I think if that's not there, then something's wrong, because there's so much news, whether it's worth reporting or not. I mean, the amount of stuff that just constantly gets tweeted out or posted or shared or whatever, it's never ending, more so even back when G4 was on the air. So I think having a daily show to kind of just parse that stuff and give you, here's what's important.
And look, if there's a slow news week, this is the good news. G4 will have all their fresh top 10 all-time lists. They got all kinds of content they can do for all the clicks.
Yeah. No, I'm excited about it. Hearing another recognizable name being involved with it was like, it got me to perk up this week for sure. So time will tell. That's due out 2021. Matt, we're going to get ready for a break, but first we've got our Quake fact number 2. This was the first shooter to receive mod support and the first to consider multiplayer maps as unique maps from the campaign. Obviously, there was deathmatch and things like that before, particularly in Doom, but Quake was the one that first decided, let's make maps that just work for multiplayer. Mods for the game became games of their own. One of the notable ones was Team Fortress, which became Team Fortress Classic, and then got the interest of Valve, who then purchased the developers, yada, yada.
Hey, that sounds familiar.
Right? The rest is history. Quake fact number 2.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I always assumed Doom, but Doom, the only reason that's the way it is because they released the source code.
Yeah. So a lot of that stuff happened there, and a lot of what they were doing internally at id, where like they would literally just sit at their desks and fight with each other. I mean, that's how deathmatch was kind of born in the beginning, but it evolved from that. Why don't we do one more news story here? Actually, a handful of news stories, all out of Remedy Games. Is it Remedy Games or Remedy Entertainment at this point? We saw last week after the State of Play event that new expansion or story DLC for Control is coming. There's kind of been the idea of the Remedy connected universe, but this week, what's his name? Sam
Lake.
Thank you. I was going to call him Sam Rockwell. So Sam Lake says this week in a blog post, for over 10 years, we've had a crazy dream. The idea that the tales told in some of our games would be connected to each other. A connected world of stories and events with shared characters and lore. Each game is a standalone experience, but each game is also a doorway into a larger universe with exciting opportunities for crossover events. Slowly, patiently, behind the scenes, we've been planning and plotting to make this a reality. I'm absolutely thrilled to tell you that now the time has come to take the first concrete step on this road, establishing Remedy Connected Universe. Just call it RCU from here on out, Matt.
Perfect.
Or Rick U says, you have no idea how happy it makes me to be able to finally make this statement. What took place in 2010 in Alan Wake is one of the cases that the Federal Bureau of Control has been investigating. The AWE expansion is the first official Remedy Connected Universe crossover event, bringing more Alan Wake lore into Control. Goes on to continue and says, this is still just a humble beginning. We're already hard at work on a future Remedy game that also takes place in the same universe. It seems like things will continue to build out from here for this connected universe. Matt, thoughts on this? As you've really dug Control and all that weird conspiracy stuff hidden within, do you think this new game is one of the case files from Control? Do you think it connects in a different way? Is Max Payne part of this too?
I really think they have a lot of opportunity with that universe, right? Like Alan Wake and Control could have been two totally separate things, and I think they just ended up making them collide. Like the way the objects of power are so diverse in what they are, first of all, and what they do. I think there's just a lot you can easily write in lore to tie it all in together. Yeah. So I think it's really cool they're finally doing that universe. I am a bit disappointed. I know for legal reasons this can't happen, but where does the massacre in New York from Max Payne? Where does that fall in the RCU?
Yeah, Rick U. Maybe they addressed that, right? Like maybe that comes up in one of their games. Maybe they're contracted through who owns Max Payne? Rockstar. Maybe they're contracting through Rockstar to work on Max Payne 4.
Or how about this? Rockstar just makes another Max Payne game. We could just do that.
Yeah. What if? What if?
I'd be down. Still love that series.
Yeah. We also heard this week that the Ultimate Edition arrives on Steam August 27th, with Epic Games Store, PS4, and Xbox One versions on September 10th. This includes all previous upgrades and both of the game's expansions. They also announced with this that those who buy the console version of the Ultimate Edition will receive a free digital upgrade to the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the game when they arrive. That free upgrade will not be available to other editions of the game, regardless of DLC purchases. Which I feel like they said recently they were going to do a next-gen bump, and then now they're announcing this Ultimate Edition and forcing it through this. So seems weird. I wonder if there's another story about that. Like, I think those console versions ran pretty poorly from what I understood. That's why I played it on PC last year when I did. I wonder if there's some...
Yeah, from the start I wanted to play on PC. There were rumors, despite its critical acclaim, there were rumors that it had soft sales, so I wonder if that is part of this, just to get a little bit of a double dip.
I can see that. Absolutely. Are you gonna double dip?
I don't need to. I got PC, bud.
Yeah.
PC. Dad.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? That feels a little grimy, but I don't know.
It does, but who cares? I feel like if you played that game, then you're good. If you want to, why are you playing it again? There's too many other games to get all upset that you're not getting this one for free to not play again. Like, I think that's the thing. The people who are going to complain about this the most are the people who are not going to play it when it gets upgraded anyway.
Right.
There's one dude, right? There's one person out there who will play it, and this does affect. But, like, I don't know. Just, if you're that into it, buy it. If you're so against paying full price for the Ultimate Edition, give it a month. It'll come out on sale. Like, it's not the end of the world to me. Developers have to make money. If it is a case of, like, hey, we got to make some more cheese here, that's fine. I think it's... a good reminder that smart delivery and whatever version of that PS5 is doing, they haven't given a cute title, is not a guarantee. It's not a promise. It's an option for developers. And I think this is a good reminder of that. We first saw that with the NBA stuff where only certain versions of that are going to get the, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever, you know, it muddies the waters of this whole cross-generation thing. That stuff gets a little weird now, that Xbox Play Anywhere stuff, which we'll talk about a little bit more later, like the idea that you can buy once and everything's backwards compatible, like this stuff's kind of weird because it's like everybody wants to be a PC, but nobody wants to commit to doing that. So we're still stuck with these arbitrary lines that are drawn. But ultimately, I feel like the people who played Control. People who are going to play it are going to play it one way or the other. I think the neat thing, though, are you going to go back and play through? Like, if you're in this place, like, you played Control, you loved Control. Did you play the Foundation DLC?
Yeah.
And then you got the Alan Wake stuff coming up in a couple weeks here. Like, if you played through all that on PC, are you going to come back to it in 6 months and play it again? Like, I feel like those stories, like, happen once, and, like, maybe you get the itch for it to, like, jump around and fly around and shoot some stuff, but do you really need to see that story again? And I think if the answer is yes, then hey, man, get your pitchforks out, start the fire. I get it. But I don't know. I feel like the people who bought it, they're going to play it and be happy, and the people who didn't will buy this Ultimate Edition and be just as happy, too.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you can always, like, do, I don't know, because it is Ultimate, it does come with the DLCs, like, you know, there's going to be people that didn't get the Foundation, but saw the Alan Wake thing, kind of curious about it, and now, this is $40, it's not $60, is it?
I didn't check price, I don't remember, but
even if it was $60, it includes new content, and then you're, you know, if you want to get it, or if you want to wait, and you know it's going to get a next-gen bump, like, I don't know, that's another scenario I see here, but yeah, it's just kind of the first game that's kind of done that. I'm sure others are going to come down the line. It's just, you know, like you said, people get butthurt because they don't get the free upgrade when, you know, you kind of look at the evidence. You heard the rumors about the soft sales, and this makes total sense.
It also makes total sense for us to take a break. When we come back, we've got more Quake facts. We've got corporate change-ups. We've got a hot little question of the week after this. Matt, we got a hot new question of the week called, What Are You Buying? You are given the keys to Jeffrey's time machine. You could travel back to 2000, the year 2000, and you could pick one thing from anywhere in the video game section of Toys R Us. What are you buying?
In a very, very brief Google search of video games in 2000, I saw one thing catch my eye immediately. And this is a game I'm very fond of. Spider-Man, PS1.
The one with the comic book cover? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
The one with the cover of him crawling up the building.
But it's more like blue and, like, really bright blue and red color?
I don't know about blue.
I'm thinking of his suit.
Oh, yeah, the suit, yeah.
Yeah. That was the one.
Yeah, this one.
Yep.
That one. Can you see it?
Yeah, I do remember that one.
I like that one a bunch. I don't know why. It's a fun game.
A little Activision classic. That got you Spider-Man and Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. It's all coming around here, Matt. I think, for me, I would buy a Dreamcast. Because it's the one thing...
I didn't know that was allowed.
One thing, right? I'm not saying I'm going to buy a Dreamcast and all of its library, but just when I look over there, I still have my original N64. I've got my PS1, my PS2. I never had the Dreamcast. But like that, if I had it, it would still be right there. It'd still be hooked up. I could still play it all right here and right now. I think I'd buy a Dreamcast. That way modern day me wouldn't look at a Dreamcast for $70 and go, I shouldn't spend the money. Wouldn't have to.
Well, I have a question for you now. If Sega came out with a Dreamcast Mini, which has been like the trend here, would you buy that?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
It's weird. Like the Genesis Mini, I have looked at so many times where I'm like, I should buy that. And even when it gets marked down to like $40, $50, I'm like, I should buy it. But then I think about it, and it's like, as cool as that thing is, I have those games in so many other places. Like, there's been so many collections throughout the years. There's ports. There's all those different ways to play those games. That when it comes to buying that Genesis Mini, plugging it in for a dedicated, it's just like, I don't know if I want to go through all that. And if I did, maybe I just buy a regular Genesis and start collecting the games again. Or maybe I buy that Mega SG. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I start going with it mentally.
Yeah,
but a Dreamcast, there's not a great way to play Dreamcast games now. Some of them have been... No, some of them have been ported to different consoles. But it's usually with some sort of trade-off. That original controller you can't really replicate. So yeah, I think if they did one, like that would be one for me that I'd want to dive into. Because even through emulation, there's not there's ways, but I feel like Dreamcast emulation is not as ubiquitous as like NES or SNES or the other stuff.
What if they did it and just put Shenmue 1 and 2 on it?
It'd be my Shenmue box. I mean, it'd be an excuse to play Shenmue, you know? But yeah, I wonder what I'd want on a Dreamcast Mini. Probably Jet Grind.
Yeah, Jet Set. Is it Jet Set? Yeah.
I don't know. There's Jet Set Radio Future was the sequel on Xbox. I think the original was Jet Grind Radio, and then it later became Jet Set in America. I don't know, something like that.
I love it. NFL 2K. Don't know how they would get it with licensing though.
Yeah, and that's the problem that it comes down to. Like some of these games, it's just like, how would you like? You'd probably want Crazy Taxi on there, but is it going to be the same version that was there before?
They're going to port over the iOS version.
Yeah, no more Offspring. Speaking of Offspring, Sam Fisher's joining Rainbow Six Siege. By the time you're hearing this, you probably will know more about it than we do. Yesterday at the North American Mini Major Finals, Sam Fisher was shown off as joining the game within the Operation Shadow Legacy update. I almost called it Shagacy Lado. Shadow Legacy update. Sam Fisher's joining the game. My question to you, Matt, we keep seeing Sam Fisher pop up. He's in some mobile game. He's a skin in some other thing. Now he's in Rainbow Six Siege. Is this the Conquer of Project Spark? Or is it the Crash Bandicoot of Sean Layden's t-shirt? What is this?
I think it's the Crash.
You think it's Crash? You think there's a new Splinter Cell game on the way?
They're not. That franchise is still too good. Like Conquer, that was dying, and they were like, "Oh, we have this property. Let's try to do something Project Spark," and that was dying too. So, no, Sam Fisher is still very much relevant. I just don't know if they know how to make a video game with him in this kind of video game industry vibe in the last 3 or so years. The best way to make a Splinter Cell game would be to look at Metal Gear Solid 5. But, I don't know,
build it from
they
there,
probably had something going, and then they had to pivot after 5 came out. So, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. But, I think they're very much still... People are clamoring for that. That's always the one at Ubisoft press conference that we think it's going to end on every year. So, he's still very much alive. I think it's just a little nod to the Tom Clancy universe.
Do you remember a couple years ago when there were those rumors that it was coming back, and then that producer at like an E3 dinner said as much? He's like, "Yeah, we're making that." And
I don't remember that rumor, but
no, it wasn't even a rumor. It was like a Ubisoft producer at a dinner who was just like, "Yeah, we're making a. Can we talk about that?"
Is this the same one that left his computer open on an airplane?
They're all. That's the thing. When you sign up to be a Ubisoft employee, it's like, hey, when you go somewhere, just leave your computer open.
Yeah, they don't sign the NDA.
No.
They don't. They just like, all right.
They sign a DA. That's what that is. Quake fact number 3, Matt. Sony Pictures created an add-on level for Quake called Temple of the Mist to tie into the movie Anaconda, starring Jennifer Lopez and Jon Voight.
Wow.
It found you traveling through an ancient temple. You had to find a key, and then eventually you fought the titular Anaconda.
Didn't know
that one was a new one for me. I didn't know that either.
Like I said, don't know a lot of Quake stuff, man. I'm learning more than I think I've ever would have at a QuakeCon, especially in recent years.
Yeah, I think so. Recent years, Matt. How about recent weeks with some announcements to corporate changes, corporate shakeups this week?
Before you start,
I
like to play. I want to play a little game I've created. It's called "Can You Embrace Me?"
Okay.
Off the news of what we're about to come up, speak to 4A being acquired by Embracer Group, it led me to go down a rabbit hole of what the fuck is this? What is Embracer Group? Because I didn't know. So finally, after looking at a couple charts, a couple trees, a little Wikipedia research, how much do you know?
They are, from what I saw in the press release about this company being acquired, Embracer Group is the parent company above THQ Nordic. They're kind of like the bridging gap that brought together the THQ stuff and the Nordic game stuff and the whatever other things they've purchased. Is the idea that am I along the right track here?
You're along the right track. You got it. You're getting there. What do you know how we've gotten to the name Embracer Group?
Oh boy. I don't know the exact path. My general recollection of this is that THQ goes out 2012. All of its properties start ending up in different spots. Nordic Games acquires a healthy bit of that, but some of the other ones go to different places. After that, I remember at some point, I feel like there's more layers to this than there actually are. Like, my memory of it is much more layered than I think the reality of the situation is. I want to say that it was Nordic Games and then it was THQ Nordic. And it was kind of like, I keep thinking there were all these other steps in between, but I think it was just that simple. And then there's, see, this is where it gets muddy. I don't remember if Deep Silver's involved with this. I know there's Koch Media, and that's KOCH Media. There's all of these other pieces that I know are probably somehow tangentially related, and then Embracer Group wraps them all up in one big hug. Is that the idea?
You're kind of getting there, yeah. So they started as Nordic Games, and then when they acquired all those THQ properties, they eventually got the THQ logo as their as a property, and that's when they became THQ Nordic. Well, then they started acquiring when they bought Coffee Stain Holding and Koch Media, all kind of around the same time. That's when THQ Games, and then they have their publishing arm, which is THQ. It's THQ Nordic acquired all those ones, and they have THQ Nordic GmbH, which is their publishing arm. So to avoid confusion with the publishing arm, much like Bethesda and Bethesda Softworks, by the way.
Sure. Okay.
They went to Embracer Group.
So Embracer Group is just THQ.
Huh?
Embracer Group is just the new THQ at this point.
Pretty much. But THQ Nordic is an arm of Embracer Group. Much like Bethesda, the game developer, is part of ZeniMax Studios, but ZeniMax Studios also owns Bethesda Softworks, which is the publishing arm.
Oh, I want to put my head through some glass.
Do you know what THQ Nordic? Do you know what the GmbH stands for?
Good math behind horses? Wait, hold on. Give me big horns. Give me big horns. Give me big hams. Give me big.
Well, Joe, all these guesses could be correct because I don't know the exact translation of Gesellschaft mit beschränkter Haftung.
It's the first word's give. The second one is me, or it's like kind of like mine. Give mine. So give me back my Give me... I have no idea.
In a brief lookup of this term, I realized that is a like limited liability subsidy or subsidiary, whatever
that makes sense. Okay.
So essentially, Embracer Group is just a big ZeniMax Studios with all the confusion of Bethesda, the game company, and Bethesda Softworks, their publishing arm.
When do the two merge and just become THQ East and West? And I mean ZeniMax and Embracer Group.
I don't know. When Todd Howard keeps making shitty games.
So next year. Got it.
When is Starfall? What game? When's that coming? Is that the game? Starfall?
I don't know. Star something.
Star Spangled Banner.
I kind of want to call it Starlink, but that's the not Star Fox game.
All right, so then you already hinted at the next thing here. I was gonna list you all the subsidiaries of it and try to trick you, but no, you got it. You know that Embracer has all these different little arms, and that they are Amplifier Game Invest, Coffee Stain Holding, DECA Games, Koch Media, THQ Nordic, and Saber Interactive.
They're newly acquired.
And then, of course, that was weird, though, because Saber Interactive is already part of them, but now 4A, which is under Saber Interactive, has finally officially been bought by Embracer Group, and that is where our news story kicks off.
Yeah, that hits this week. I think it sucks that you already know now, because now I want to double back and play a game with you called Is It a THQ Studio, where I read off real ones and ones that I make up, and you tell me if it's something that they actually own or not. They do
That'll actually
now
be a really hard game. Do you have 43 in total now, including 4A?
So I could still play this game.
Oh yeah, look at that list. There's not a lot of recognizable names.
Sick. All right, this might be a good one for a future episode.
Well, yeah. Wait until the next person they buy, because that's coming in 6 months.
Give it a week. 4A Games, you know them behind the Metro series, the developer of the Metro series. They are now owned by the Embracer Group. The company will operate as an independent studio under Saber Interactive, which was also acquired by Embracer this year. They're collaborating with Saber Interactive on a new Metro game and on an entirely new project that combines the AAA production values of 4A with the engine and technology know-how and Saber's experience on multiplayer and live operations. So, 2 games in development. And it seems like that Metro series is still alive, which I know people dig quite a bit.
Yeah, that last one sold really well. I don't know if it was the, I don't know if people look at, or from what I've heard conjecturally, I know Nick plays a lot of the Metro games. He liked it. I don't think it was his favorite Metro game, but he enjoyed it at least. So, yeah, I think he's still on board for a new one.
Yeah. So we will see. Speaking of we will see, Warner Media had some layoffs this week, particularly in the comic book division. It's kind of a bad deal on the comic book side of the fence, which we won't go too far because it doesn't entirely relate to the video game stuff, but it is really a bummer as a comic book fan, especially when we're less than a week out from Fandom and all of the DC Comics announcements and all of that stuff. But on Friday, August 7th, CEO Jason Kildare sent out a message to all employees marking kind of his 90-day mark since joining the company, highlighted some upcoming changes, and kind of the language in there expresses that some of the changes might seem painful or it might seem like a big undertaking, etc. He uses a lot of language that very much prepared, I think, the staff for what was happening Monday when they came to work, which was everybody got fired. And I don't mean just like, well, this is like the Activision Blizzard level of firings that happened last year or 18 months ago, where like longtime editor-in-chief of DC Comics gone. Like all these people just gone. But not gone. Fired, but made to work for the next 2 months, some 3 months. Like some of them have to stay through the end of the year in order to see their contract to the end. So that's... Anyway. One news story that's been pulled out of what this statement was that was sent to employees is this quote here: Warner Brothers Interactive remains part of the studios and networks group along with our global brands and franchises team, including DC. The idea here that, remember we've had these stories that EA, Microsoft, 2K were all interested in buying the Warner Brothers Interactive piece of WB. And at least according to this, the CEO seems to suggest that that arm is still remaining a part of it, and perhaps they're making up their deficit by firing a majority of the workforce. I don't know. This is all still development. There's still not been an official response to the layoffs by DC. There's been some official confirmation by way of like someone who works as a letterer for comic books sent a memo out to like different partners saying like, hey, I'll be gone by the end of the year. So if you need me, I'm here. But that kind of confirmed that it wasn't just because a lot of it was like hearsay and scuttlebutt hitting outlets that all these people were being fired. But no, at least as of this recording, no official word from DC. But apparently that whole weird thing about them trying to sell off the video games division is not happening, or maybe put on hold.
Yeah, I don't know. This is messy.
Yeah, this happened post the merge with AT&T, and now a lot of like it seems like they want to prop up HBO Max, but at the same time they fired the dude who started HBO Max, so it's just not sure at all. With
HBO Max, you saw that all the DC originals are going. All the DC Universe originals are going to HBO Max.
Yeah, so I know a lot of that stuff's going there, which makes me wonder the future of that series, or that service, which I love it just for the comic books. Like I read comics in DC Universe every single day, so...
Yeah. Well, there's no one left at DC to write comics, so...
Apparently, man. I mean, it's a gnarly, terrible thing. Similar, but a little different. Yoshinori Ono is leaving Capcom after nearly 30 years. In a statement released last week, Ono says, I've been with the Street Fighter brand for a long time, experiencing good times, bad times, and even non-existent times. My heart is filled with appreciation to those players who've been giving warm and kind support on the brand, especially a little over the past decade or so, as all the activities on the Street Fighter brand regained sunshine and grew its liveliness. And now, after serving almost 30 years at Capcom, I am leaving the company in this summer. This means that I will resign my position as the brand manager for Capcom's various titles, including Street Fighter. This to me, Matt, it's smaller for sure than this, but it feels a little bit like Miyamoto leaving Nintendo. Like, I think of Street Fighter, I think about the games, I think about the characters, I think about how there's no Darkstalkers games, and then I think about Ono, and I think there's been things from time to time, hearsay about internal rife with decisions he's made, some unpopular choices, from Ono and whatever, and that's nothing that I think. It's nothing more than that to me. Like it's rumor. It's stuff that people have kind of whispered and whatever. And regardless of that, like this could ultimately be a good thing for Street Fighter, maybe. But I think regardless of that, it's still a big shift in what Street Fighter is and will become in the future. And I think not unlike the stuff that just happened at DC Comics, like this is like kind of removing the entire editorial staff, where there's just so many people, so many hands that touch these games, so many things that go into making just a single thing happen on a screen. It happens in comics, it happens in games, it happens in everything. It's more than just, he might be the face that people see when, the game's shown off at whatever conference or Evo or whatever, but it's a lot more than that. But it's still, I mean, he's a big part of what made Street Fighter. So I try to be, even with the DC stuff, as gnarly as that is, I try to be optimistic and like, maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this will be cool. The fact that Street Fighter 5 has gone on for 5 years and has left me pretty bored makes me excited to see what happens next. But, it's still a shift in this kind of history, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about. One, I'm not big into the fighting games, that genre. Two, if I'm playing them, Street Fighter's never been that one, and really any of the Capcom ones. But yeah, like you said, when you bring up Miyamoto, like that kind of scale almost. But then again, Miyamoto's very much around Nintendo, but I think he's more just like a hype man at this point. I think a lot of the a lot of new blood has taken over the actual game development part of it.
They have, but like even that stuff still runs through him for his approval. Like he's still, you know what I mean, like a big integral part of that. So I think, you know, when Miyamoto inevitably leaves Nintendo, it's not going to be unlike this in a way where it's like
maybe Hype Man was a bit like exaggerated.
No, I know what you mean. I know what you mean though. Like he's definitely not in the role where he's as hands-on as he used to be, but it's still like, as a producer, as someone who, I mean, Ono was brand manager for a lot of the different internal brands. Like, I think that kind of idea is like the things ran through him forever. You know, you think of Capcom fighting, you think of Ono.
Yeah.
The same way that, you know, if, I don't know, Harada left Namco and you suddenly like,
or
the face
Kojima
of
left Metal Gear, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's. These things just become so synonymous with one another. Or maybe as another good example here is, you know, what if Tony Petitti left Major League Baseball? So another hot example I can think of maybe. Which, oh my gosh, Matt, it happened this week. Tony Petitti left Major League Baseball.
I don't even know if it is Petitti.
I'm just having fun saying his name like that.
I don't even know. So, to be completely like honest with you, this is like kind of like one of the first times I've heard his name in a while, or like kind of you don't hear his name much when it comes to baseball. It's more Rob Manfred, who is the acting commissioner. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, this is weird. I think this is a big get for esports in a way. If anything, it's new connections to different brands and television networks and things like that baseball has and is regularly dealing with. Baseball also.
Real quick, let me do the deputy commissioner for MLB
and the CEO
and COO Tony Petitti has left the MLB to join Activision Blizzard to oversee esports at the company. But more than that, he is now at Activision Blizzard, the new. What are they calling him? President of Sports and Entertainment, effective August 17th. So he's going to oversee esports, consumer products, and film and television, reporting directly to Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick. With that, like you said, I think that he's probably got a lot of connections from the MLB side of things with cable networks, with vendors, with all sorts of different spots that could be leveraged here.
Yeah, and then like when you look at baseball, in the last probably since Manfred took over, I think he took over in 15 or 16 as the commissioner from Bob Selick. But like baseball is trying to undergo changes to increase the pace of the game, not only for those attending, but like for viewership and watching on TV. They see what like the NBA and hockey are doing, where like there's just constant action. Your eyes kind of have to stay on the TV more so, and not on your phone. When you look at football, yeah, there's a lot of time between plays, but they've figured out this magical thing of just showing replays and being able to kind of format their production in a way to just kind of heighten that whole thing, where like you're going to see a replay of every down, so that way you can look for specific things. And then you kind of, if you train your audience to look for specific things in this replay. So like the production value is right there. And baseball's going through a weird thing where they're trying to fight tradition with changing the sport for, a new generation, a new viewership. And they've done a lot of those changes in the past 5 years. And I have a feeling that he's been part of those talks because of television and trying to appeal to to the major companies. Baseball is after. Actually, I don't even know how they relate to hockey now, because I feel like the playoffs are a big draw for hockey, but like, and then Canada. But when you compare it to the NBA and football, MLB is like it's not close. So. Sure. But I think that has a lot to do with just pace of play and rules there. So I think if anything, it's just for the connections part of it. And then the thing with you said about the film and television, when you see the headlines, everyone's saying esports. I think that him being the president of overseeing all of it makes a lot more sense than just bringing him in for esports. Because that's his role right now. He's the deputy commissioner of business and media for baseball. Mm-hmm. Like he's literally just moving his job title from baseball to Activision Blizzard.
So what do you think, or where do you want this stuff to go? Like, is this something where you want to go to a live venue and watch Overwatch being played down below the same way that you would go and watch baseball? Like, what is the future of this stuff in a perfect world for you?
When you kind of have to step back and look at where TV is going, and all the best ratings for TV are live, right? So companies are looking for ways to make live TV more apparent. That's why wrestling, WWE, got that big deal for Friday Night SmackDown, just because that's live, or it's supposed to be live, not when a pandemic's not going on. But I think like that's the next big step for esports, and you're starting to see them poke at it. Like ESPN's picking up on more things. I've seen some stuff on like TBS, I feel like, or like some of the Warner Media channels.
Yeah, I remember that.
But like if they can get in there and grab a spot on the big 5 networks, just even like on a weird like Saturday, afternoon or something, I think that's like the next big step for esports. And their biggest thing right now is one, the pandemic, and we don't know how long this is going to last. Yeah. So that's good leverage. Esports has picked up. They can still continue to play. It's just they have to play at home. They're not playing on these big grand venues that we're used to seeing them. So, just because other sports can't be played doesn't mean that these ones can't be played. And then it's live programming on top of that, which are all big bonuses right now. And I think with some leverage and the right positioning, I think you could just see this take off.
Now, do you think this goes after our demographic? Do you think I think age-wise, like, can you get 20-year-olds to watch this stuff, right? Or the ones with disposable income, are they going to tune into this? Can you ever get the market that watches sports generally? Like, obviously, there's always going to be some sort of blurred lines between the Venn diagrams here. But, is this something you think could take off? And what would it take to do that? Like, the same people that are going to tune in to watch football on a Sunday, are they going to tune in to watch Call of Duty being played or Overwatch being played or whatever?
Not necessarily, but I think this is where, you take a look at, like, a new generation coming in, right? Like,
sure,
viewership for those things has fallen, and then you can point to different things, but like overall, like the live numbers are still up comparatively, though. The TV ratings are coming down, so like if switching to esports is something that might get more eyes on the product, then so be it. But I think TV as a whole has to readjust, and this might be just a major shift to try to do something new, to try to get some eyes on it. And then that's where, like, he's for Activision Blizzard. So you can get a big name game like Overwatch. That's very recognizable, in my opinion, even outside of video games. If you can get that on, like, maybe not CBS, that's for old people, but like NBC Sports or something like that, like, I think that would be huge.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see what this dude can pull off over there.
And one last thing, sorry, but like, it's not just esports versus like MLB, NBA. Like all the esports within themselves are competing for viewership and sponsors and stuff like that. So you have, Valve trying to hype up Dota and Counter-Strike. You got Activision with Overwatch. The different companies have these different.
Specifically, it was the Overwatch League and the Call of Duty leagues.
And then you have Ubi and Rainbow Six. Like they all have their shooters, they all have like their MOBAs. Like there's a competitiveness inside of that, and I think his experience would give them an edge in negotiations for money there too.
Sure. Well, speaking of esports, we've got our 4th Quake fact of the podcast. Quake gave birth to esports, Matt, with the first significant competitive live event held in May 1997. The winner, Dennis Thresh Fong, was awarded John Carmack's 1987 Ferrari 328 GTS as the grand prize.
I love that.
It's cool. The way they tell that story in Masters of Doom is pretty cool too. The whole build up to that, and they kind of give you the background of like how John Carmack at some point started getting into building cars. Or like fine tuning cars and that kind of stuff. Like he didn't just want to have a fast car. He wanted to he started to tweak with engines and learning how to program better and become the best at that. He wanted to become the best at tuning a car. So he bought what he assumed was, or what he considered to be the best car in a Ferrari, fine tuned it to all hell, then gave it away as a prize for the guy who won Quake. And then all of that kind of later leads to him co-founding SpaceX and becoming an actual rocket scientist.
So this isn't an exhibit car, right? Where they just put in a bunch of TVs, kill the battery, and don't do anything.
Oh God,
with the engine.
No, I would love. That's the kind of car I want. Just let me park it and play Quake in the back of it. But no, this was a high-tuned Ferrari from John Carmack, and then the winner, I believe, was in college and could not afford the insurance for it. So John Carmack paid his insurance for a year just so he could have the car and drive it around. It's wild.
That's great.
Oh boy! Wow, we just got done talking about esports, Matt. You spent some time with an esport this week in Call of Duty Warzone. Give me the hot updates this week in Call of Duty.
I'll give you the hot updates, but I can also tell you what needs to be updated. There is a bug that is pretty game-breaking when it happens to you. So when you pick up weapons, and this could be your own loadout at times, for whatever reason, sometimes the textures on the gun don't load right, and it just looks like a bunch of fucking polygons popping off of it. So you can't see past your gun. And sometimes it's like really bad where you can't even see half your screen. And of course, if the polygons are popping up all over the place, you can't ADS. You can't see your sights or see through your sights.
Sick.
So the game essentially becomes unplayable, and it's a game of cat and mouse of like, all right, well, maybe hopefully this gun's terrible, but can I at least see through it? So that is a fun thing. And then every once in a while, this is far. I haven't seen this one yet. I've gotten the gun thing more than enough times. But like this, I have not seen yet. Sometimes the people are just messes of polygons. It's just like a big box running, and you don't know where to shoot. You don't know where they're at inside the box, but they can shoot back at you just fine. So pretty game-breaking stuff on the PC side of things right now.
It's funny. I was listening to another show this week. Somebody was talking about this, and I forgot about it until just now. But I remember somebody talking about playing something, and it going up against enemies who looked like the things from Control, where it was just kind of like noise happening.
That's what you're facing in the videos cool. I've seen. I don't even know if you can hit them. I don't know if there's an actual hitbox or not, but every time I've seen gameplay of someone run into them, they're dead because one, they don't know where to shoot necessarily, or two, there's no hitbox at all.
So 2 questions with this. Has Activision addressed it? Are they working on it? Okay.
Yes, they did, but this is the problem. It's a rendering issue, so there can't be a hot fix. It needs to be a massive update. So we're looking at a potentially another like 40 or 50 gig update. And to be fair, I don't think we started to see this. I've seen it more this week, but I think it started when the new season came out.
Oh, boy. All right.
So
we're pivoted to Xbox at this point.
Yeah, so...
Can you play mouse and keyboard there?
You can, but I just went with Control. I'm just going for the full experience. Before I talk about my Xbox story, though, they said about there's no timetable on it.
Cool.
So, yeah. But they came out and said it's a rendering thing. It's not an easy hot fix, and they're working on it.
So should you just uninstall from PC at this point and wait and just reinstall?
I mean, you can play. I don't get it every game, but like if I'm playing for an extended period of time, I get it enough where I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Like, and it's so frustrating too because it's one thing to pick up a random gun, but like when you get to the golden star child of your loadout and you get your sniper rifle and you can't see through it, that's like the worst fucking feeling in the world. And I wish no one's even figured out a way to like adjust settings to maybe not have it. I think it's just like a core issue in the game. So that's a lot of fun. Yeah, like no one can pinpoint if it's on like custom skins on weapons or what. But I know like once you get it in the game on a certain weapon, like it is that way in the game for the rest of the game until you reboot into a new lobby.
Oh gosh.
So at least if like you pick up your loadout once and you know your sniper rifle's fucked, well maybe go to a second class because you know that sniper rifle's fucked. So I just hope that gun works.
Oh man.
Yeah. So last night I finally had enough of it. It's once again, it was like the third time I picked up my loadout. My sniper rifle was fucked. I was like, you know what? Fuck this. So I went to my Xbox, hit turn 1. I knew that my Xbox has the most free space. 100 gigs later, I was playing on my Xbox.
Oh boy. And what's that transition like?
It's actually fine. They carry everything over because Activision, they use Activision's like account to monitor everything. Right. You can just connect to it. So all my stuff is there. All my clouds is there. I had to tweak a couple settings. It's the first time I've ever seen Warzone without the Modern Warfare part of it. So it literally just says when you boot up, like on the left side, buy Modern Warfare, and then you go over one, Warzone's right there. And I think the other one's like options or something. Yeah. Go in. It looks the same. You're just navigating it with the controller. Definitely, I see the difference in graphical quality right away. I've seen, like that flickering like texture thing you see in the distance. A lot of that. I can tell like the framiness sometimes after playing this game regularly with like 90 or so frames to sometimes I dip to 48 depending on where you're at in Verdansk. You can see that. So it's a bit of an adjustment.
Does that make the game worse? Seriously. Because I think we've talked a lot about, and we're going to talk about more weird stuff with these next-gen consoles. And not to like totally jump topics here, but like how much of that does it actually impact your enjoyment of the game? Because it's something I come back to often when I'm thinking about PS5, Xbox Series X, 1080p TV. Like the jump to next-gen is going to be a big investment for me, and I think a lot of people where I don't have a 4K TV, so before I see any of those significant changes, I got to buy a new TV, which that's going to cost whatever. Then I got to buy the box. Then I got to buy the game or whatever. How much am I missing out on side by side like this? I think I've seen it in different spots, but like you just witnessed it firsthand. I'm just curious.
Like it's startling and it kind of sucks. But like the entire time I am wishing like, man, I wish they just patched that thing. But like at the same time, I'm still able to play, so like I'm not that bummed out about it, and I know it works here. Like I said, I'd rather look at it at 90 frames and a much higher quality at 1440p and all the other stuff. But I'm just happy that the game works. So I guess
do you think it impacts gameplay?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to those things where draw distance might be an issue, but that would be the only thing I can see, and that's like something where you go back to PC settings and you know. Low quality textures versus high quality and where your draw distance goes and how like how far away you can actually see someone. That's a bigger issue in PUBG. I feel like sniping's a more legitimate thing in PUBG than in this. Like there's sniping and stuff, but it's more in that game. So I don't know yet. I only played a few games on Xbox. The nice thing is with the controller, I played a bunch of fucking Call of Duty before on a controller, so those things came to me. The things I struggled with on controller were the new Warzone things. I was not used to them. I was struggling with like navigating like how to drop money. Like before it was so easy for me to drop money. And like when we're in the heat of the moment and someone's calling like, "Oh, drop your money" or "drop a plate." Now it's like you can see, like if you're probably playing, if you're someone else and you're just watching, you can probably see like my character just stand still and just know that on the other end on that control, I'm like, what the fuck? How do you do like? Because there's like that 3-second gap of me fucking dropping the whatever I need to drop. So. Right. That's a little frustrating. Like the things I'm like really fast at with mouse and keyboard, you have to kind of select with the controller, but it is what it is. At least the game works over here. The good news is it doesn't seem to affect multiplayer, so I can still grind out my guns and stuff on PC if I want to play regular multiplayer. Unless Victoria's on the TV out here, I'm probably staying away from Warzone on PC for a bit until they resolve it. But yeah, that's how bad this is getting for me.
That's a bummer. How about the other stuff we talked about since the new patch? Like, are players getting used to that vertical movement? Do you think that like the meta's changing in the game? Is it still kind of mostly the same? We're waiting to see big changes.
So this week they actually did roll out a hot patch for weapon balancing. So that changed the meta a bit. There was like a couple overpowered guns. Like maybe not overpowered, but a lot of people were leaning towards them. They've toned them down a bit. So I think people are trying to figure out what to use or if there is an overpowered gun right now. So it's kind of balanced. I don't think I mentioned this last week, but they're every week they're switching the Gulag weapon sets, so that's always kind of staying fresh. You're not always this just nice for the change. And then they changed all the weapons and stuff on the ground that you pick up. So I think people are still trying to figure out, like, oh, what's their go-to common? Like, if you see that common on the ground, is like that's the one I want to pick up when you see it. So right now it seems pretty balanced, but yeah, the PC issue it's a bummer.
Sucks. Yeah.
But yeah, now on console. So if you can play it on console, go for it. And I think I could play keyboard and mouse if I wanted to, but it's not worth it. I was playing my controller.
You just move the Xbox to where your PC is, plug everything into your monitors there.
No, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good enough. I expect a certain quality when I'm over here.
And how about those? You messaged me about streamer crates. People are getting mailed stuff that is maybe teasing Black Ops.
Yeah, this is one of those things, just like the Sam Fisher thing. We're going to know more. The viewer's going to know more than we do at this point in recording on Monday. Breaking kayfabe later today, there's supposed to be another trailer. So they got crates. When they opened the crates, it was some Easter eggy stuff that led to, I think, a code that you could access the door and farmland. Honestly, it got way too out of hand. I stopped following it. I was like, at this point, just give me the fucking trailer.
Yeah, but it was exactly what you said. It was an ARG of some type, kind of leading all this stuff out.
Yeah,
right?
They got crates, they got a code. Then there was all of a sudden, I think with that hot patch, with the guns, they patched in a special door with a code that you got from the crates for farmland. And then I think that did another tease on Friday is when that was discovered or whatever. And then today, as we record, I think at noon, there's going to be either another part of it or it might finally lead to what is the trailer. But it's very much
at noon?
Possibly. Oh, well, yeah, possibly. I knew it was today. I think they said noon or 1. But
well, I guess stay tuned, listeners. Maybe by the end of this episode, we'll have something.
But yeah, no, it's all very Cold War, that time period. It's all leading up to what the Doritos bag said. So,
all right.
Yeah, that's that.
Well, maybe there'll be more of that for us here, but listeners, you probably know more than we do at this point. We do, however, know about the new update to Final Fantasy XIV. Matt, the 5.3 patch is out. This is the one. This patch does, so it concludes the Shadowbringer story that launched last summer with the big campaign changes, and it also adds the second installment of the Nier universe tie-in raid that's co-developed by, or not developed, but directed by Yoko Taro. But now this is the one where as a beginner, as a new player, things are changing for Final Fantasy XIV. So the starter edition includes a product key for Heavensward, the game's first big expansion.
Sorry, breaking news. As I was looking for the Call of Duty stuff, a patch is coming out today.
Oh,
so
well,
by the time this airs, we might have fixes.
Hopefully. You won't have to be playing on Xbox.
Whew. I'm very happy. That was a one-night thing. I don't have to worry about that ever again.
And speaking of patches, an update to game progression in Final Fantasy XIV happened. So now it makes it a lot faster to move through main scenario content. So before the patch, you would get a prompt that says, hey, you have to complete this quest. Now it says, hey, you have to complete this quest, or this quest to move forward. So they've kind of like shortened the length of time that you need to spend just doing because a lot of the quest stuff in an MMO, especially in this one, it's a lot of those like, go here and fight 10 things and bring back 10 of those things. And they're doing it now where it's much more streamlined, where you can do that one time instead of 4 times, which seems nice. I've wanted to play 14, and I thought this was going to be the part where I was like, all right, I'm in, let's do this, but I still don't really want to play this game. I don't think I have time for an MMO, as we talk about losing games as a service and getting away from that. For me, that whole live game model, like I'm pulling myself out as much as I can, and as exciting as this stuff is, and I think is more approachable as this makes that game, I just don't know that it's I don't know, too little too late maybe.
Yeah, I can't do one of these.
It's good to know though that this stuff has been added, so that if I do get that itch over a weekend where I'm like, all right, I'm going all the way in, I can go in without it being, because I've played the first maybe I mean, I probably put maybe 15, 20 hours into regular 14 before this patch, so I don't know. Not sure. We talked earlier about changes to or updates to Control and revisiting Control, but now another game that I think I played once and don't need to play again, The Last of Us Part 2, getting some updates. The grounded difficulty mode returns, which would remove listen mode, deactivate some elements in the heads-up display, and this is added as a new base difficulty option. So you, starting out a brand new game, you can just pick grounded as a difficulty. You don't need to do the thing from the very first The Last of Us and play all the way through before unlocking it. They've also added a new permadeath mode, which means you cannot die. You die, you restart. And then there's a secondary version of that where it does add checkpoints. So if you die, you just have to go back to the beginning of a chapter, or the beginning of an act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They do it. There's different options within that. It's not just like one or the other. Or you can just do permadeath. You die and you're done. So that, for people who really want to go crazy hardcore, you can. They've added like things for speedrunning functionality that tracks things like that. So there's all these new little mini goals to get. There's new trophies to show off with the new challenges that are not required for the platinum, but still, you can earn.
Dude, who wants to go through that for 30 hours and die at the last encounter and just like...
There are people who just buy games and play that game over and over again, I guess. I don't...
You want to know a sad truth that I'm kind of ashamed of now? I had to delete The Last of Us Part 2 to make room for the Avengers.
Ooh, yeah. I deleted it just because I knew I wouldn't go back to it. But I had the room for Avengers, so I don't... Yeah, I know. It's okay, though, because now they're both off your hard drive, right?
Not yet. I didn't even give the Avengers the time of day to hit delete yet, so...
Oh, as soon as I got to the point where I was like, I hit the PlayStation button, I hit start, and then I...
Also, I think I didn't delete it because somewhere in the back of my head was like, if you got to the point where we had to start to do matchmaking... But, okay, I feel a lot better about that now. Yeah, no, it sucks. I was getting to the point where I was about to text you and tell you not to play it, and you texted me, and I was like, it's too late to save him. But I texted Mark, and I was like, do not play this. Uninstall if you... Because I texted both of you in the morning and was like, I might maybe try that. Same text I sent to you, I sent to Mark, basically, and he thought I was joking for a really long time. And then when I told him, no, I'm serious, I just installed it, then I went back and made sure he knew, just don't even try. Last of Us also getting some new graphics, rendering modes, audio modifiers, things like that within the game. It all looks neat. Again, I played that game once and I think I'm good. For people that like the replayability or like to see one of their favorite games twisted up in weird versions of it, there's a lot of stuff being added to it. Not too many news stories left, Matt, but one big one that is still developing. Okay, let's run through the timeline here of what's going on with Fortnite. Epic Games began offering the option to purchase 1,000 V-Bucks for $7.99 directly from Epic Games instead of $9.99 through in-app purchases in both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. This directly challenged App Store guidelines and Google Play Store guidelines, making it so that you could kind of sideload payment directly to Epic. After doing so, Epic updated an FAQ section, and one of the questions in there is, does a new payment method on mobile mean purchases there are less safe? The response there is kind of what began the initial statement that I think Epic is trying to make with everything you're about to hear us detail. The response to the FAQ posed on its own FAQ section is, no, thousands of apps on the App Store approved by Apple accept direct payments, including commonly used apps like Amazon, Grubhub, Nike, Sneakers, Best Buy, DoorDash, Fandango, McDonald's, Uber, Lyft, and StubHub. We think all developers should be free to support direct payments in all apps. In operating Fortnite on open platforms and operating the Epic Games Store, Epic processed over $1 billion
let's just call it $1.6 billion of direct payments successfully, and uses industry-trusted encryption and security measures to protect customer transactions. Clearly, Apple and Google acknowledge that third-party payment services are safe and acceptable for goods and services. Epic Direct Payment simply offers players the same kinds of payment options as these other apps. Well, in response to that, Apple and Google both removed Fortnite from their respective stores. Apple was the first to make the move. And speaking to The Verge, Apple said today, Epic Games took the unfortunate step of violating the App Store guidelines that are applied equally to every developer and designed to keep the store safe for our users. As a result, their Fortnite app has been removed from the store. Epic enabled a feature in its app which was not reviewed or approved by Apple, and they did so with the express intent of violating the App Store guidelines regarding in-app payments that apply to every developer who sells digital goods and or services. Epic has had apps on the App Store for a decade and have benefited from the App Store ecosystem, including its tools, testing, and distribution that Apple provides to all developers. Epic agreed to the App Store terms and guidelines freely, and we're glad they've built such a successful business on the App Store. The fact that their business interests now lead them to push for a special arrangement does not change the fact that these guidelines create a level playing field for all developers and make the store safe for all users. We will make every effort to work with Epic to resolve these violations so they can return Fortnite to the App Store. In response, Epic Games filed a lawsuit against Apple. Epic Games launched an in-game event mimicking or mocking Apple or parodying Apple's 1984 Macintosh commercial. And then Epic filed a lawsuit against Google, and in the lawsuit terminology there, they've spelled out, they kind of used Google's original statements and founding principles against Google in filing that lawsuit. Getting through all this, this is the tip of all of this stuff as it's going to continue to unfold. I think what it comes down to for me is I think both sides are correct, right? Like I think Epic is right to challenge this stuff because why are there we just talked about this stuff with xCloud. Why are there special exceptions made for Netflix when it comes to being able to stream media inside of an app, but those same exceptions can't be made for xCloud? Why are there special exceptions made for Best Buy, McDonald's that can't be made for Epic? I think they're right to challenge that on both sides of this. And the fact that it comes down to the fact that these are games, this is all a weird thing that needs to be discussed and talked about, and there needs to be an agreement. I agree with that. Apple said it right there that Epic was more than fine to agree to these terms a decade ago or whenever ago when they first agreed to join the App Store. And now all of a sudden they don't want to agree to the terms, so they're not. So they're challenging it and doing all this side loading stuff and all of that. And it's, I don't know. I think that's the other side of it too. It's like, for me, like I put trust in Apple in a lot of ways and in a lot of things. Apple's commitment to privacy and stuff is something that, they protect the consumer, right? Like they make sure the consumer never becomes the product, which has always been important to me. And I think that keeping that App Store ecosystem closed is a part of that, right? Like the fact that you have to go through Apple means that your payments are secured and blah, 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 blah. But like I've ordered stuff through half of those apps that they've talked about, like Fandango tickets. I've used direct payments using Apple Pay, like built into the app, sure, but like it's still a payment going to them that I'm not using an in-app purchase per se. I don't know. There's that precedent being set of safety and all of that. Like I've already used direct payment methods within apps before and been fine and been comfortable with that. We do it on our computers every day. So the stuff is, I don't know. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's two billionaires fighting. Or
a bunch of billionaires.
Right. Yeah, it's a bunch of that. But like these giant companies that, this is their problem to solve. I think the fact that Epic is like kind of like trying to like mobilize it's the Fortnite fan base to go attack Apple and Google, I think is really weird, especially when like, I don't know, there's maybe some other stuff happening globally or even just nationally that maybe that might make more sense to mobilize your fan base behind. If you have these, the statement that, this is being denied from 1 billion devices, like, okay, well, maybe not, but sure. And I think that maybe mobilize the 1 billion of devices to go do other things than fight Apple and Google, but whatever.
This was really weird. I mean, this is such a preemptive strike against both of them, really. Just like they knew they were going to get banned as soon as they put that in. They definitely put in like, and then like the 1984, like that, you just don't make that in 2 hours or.
No, this was all very.
You don't hot patch that in 2 hours. It's like a Call of Duty.
Yeah.
They had a game-breaking bug they couldn't fix for like a week.
Yeah. This was all planned. The lawsuits were planned. You don't do this in the second you get taken down, file a lawsuit without it being. This was all completely planned and completely. But
it's just for Epic to get a game store inside of both Android and Apple. So like you know where this is going and what they want to accomplish out of this. They just want to maneuver their way in, or at least like figure out a way to get excused from the 30% cut. It's all about profit margin for billionaires.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like there's part of me that's like, yeah, they're okay. But then it's like, well, wait, you're just doing it because you want more money. It's not because you want to and that was the one thing. They tried to say they're passing the savings on to the player where, like, they can offer V-Bucks at a lower discount if they're not paying Apple so much. But, like, I don't know, man. I don't know that that's necessarily the case.
I mean, like I say, I think you said it best. Both sides are right. But it's about billions of dollars. Like,
yeah,
it's stupid.
Yeah. So I think that they did this very tactfully, as Apple is kind of under the gun for some other stuff regarding all these things. They're going through stuff in the EU. They're going through stuff. I mean, not that they're. Yeah, right. There's things that are going on. So now this is just piling onto that, and I think they're going to take advantage of a situation that forces them to come to some agreement.
So the one thing about the Google Play thing I didn't understand, didn't Fortnite originally come out on Android as like its own packet like installer download thing?
It did because they wanted to get around this exactly thing. And you still can do that. And that's what Epic is telling people to do in the meantime. The problem with that was in order to do so, and this was in the Google, the actual like terms of that lawsuit. I read like the opening few pages of the Google lawsuit. You can do that, but Google, in order to sideload apps like that on standard, just Android OS, you need to put the phone in a certain mode that gives you all this like text that says like, you're doing this. Are you sure you want to do this? This is potentially dangerous. It's like, it makes it a lot scarier for a generic user to sideload an app than it really should be. It's the same stuff we see on Apple devices where like you're trying to do whatever and it's like, are you sure you want? It's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, by default on a new Mac, like it's only allowing certified developers. You have to change it if like it's not. And I think even Adobe is like not even like certified. Like Adobe Flash is like not even certified. So it's really weird.
So that will continue to develop as it continues to develop. I don't have a ton more to say on that subject other than good luck, I guess.
Go team.
Dead by Daylight finally gets crossplay. Support for added crossplay and cross friends is happening on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and Nintendo Switch. This is exciting. I think more
I'm
and more
excited about
games
this one.
Should have crossplay. I think the success of things like Modern Warfare and obviously Fortnite, I think, have made it so that made it easier for friends to play across platforms. Like I just said, like it's.
But they make crossplay safer for the kids too.
Of course, yeah, of course. Thank you, Jim Ryan. I think that for me, switching like the Xbox controller being my go-to default now has maybe like moved it away for certain things. Like now it's a little bit harder to play certain things that we would have normally played on PS4. You know what I mean? Like there's been a shift in my own balance. So stuff like crossplay specifically makes it easier for me to make those jumps personally, which I think is a good thing. So which we can now all play Dead by Daylight, because I know Ben's played that for years on PC. Mark's played on PC.
It's on Game Pass.
It's on Game Pass, which means I can play it with y'all and not have to spend more money.
Yep, that's where I'm at with that.
Which game to you still needs crossplay at this point?
All the EA Sports franchises.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot to look it up. UFC 4 just came out or is on its way out. Did that get crossplay?
I don't know.
I'll look that up real quick.
But I think that's a good point, because I think sports games in general, they used to be such a big seller. And they still, it's not like they're not anymore, but I think the numbers comparatively to the PS2 generation and prior, I think a lot of those sports titles, they're not seeing the sales that they used to. And now that platforms are split even more than they used to be, I think the sports titles are seeing a greater division and then just smaller pockets on each. If you could have everybody playing in the same pool, that would be really cool.
Yeah, it looks like former UFC games. Maybe I'm reading this wrong. It looks like PS4 and PC kind of has some crossplay going on, but not Xbox One. So
yeah,
I don't think UFC 4 changed that. I'm still kind of.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, no, I don't think it is. And the couple things I looked at.
That's a bummer.
So yeah, I would love to just be done with. Because that's the reason why I want to get Madden on PS5. One, it's another thing to play on it, right? But then two, I know a good portion of the player pool is at PS5, so right. I can just keep playing it there.
Yeah, you're not going to be stuck waiting for a game.
Yeah, so that's the next big number of franchises that needs to have it, in my opinion.
I think that would make a lot of sense. For me, it's stuff like Warframe, DC Universe Online. What was the other
Destiny
one? Destiny, those things. Which Destiny seems like they're working towards. At TennoCon at the beginning of the month, Warframe or Digital Extreme said that Warframe, that seems like it's not too far out either. It's just I've started those games all in different places, and I think. Really, for DCU and for Warframe, just cross progression would be great, because I feel like I've played through the opening bits of that game 2 different times, and I really want to play it on PC if I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing that again. I just can't go through that whole opening chunk.
And then, if you had a cross progression played on a Switch, just to grind out whatever you need to grind out, would be great. Yeah.
I still DCU, I will jump into every now and then on Switch if I'm feeling that itch just to whatever. But it's a totally different character than I have on my PC version. Why don't we cross-play ourselves into a quick break before we come back and close out this podcast here. We'll be right back after this. Matt asking, you shall receive an update for both Call of Duty Modern Warfare and Call of Duty Warzone has been released. You got your patch, buddy.
The guns are fixed, maybe. Who knows? Every time, hold on, I'm going to err with caution. Every time they do a big patch, they always seem to break something. The guns this time around. But we'll see.
Well, here's the good news. The patch ain't that big. You were worried. It comes in 1 gigabyte, just under a gig. Or just under 2 gigs between PS4 and PC. So that's good, right?
Great news. Can't wait to hop on my Xbox and update it.
Well, Xbox players patches are a little bit over 66 gigs.
Ooh, man. 3 away from a good number.
Yeah, it's true. So it says here that full size of Modern Warfare will sit at about 183 gigabytes after the patch. That's from full Modern Warfare. Just Warzone at about 100.
Yeah, all right. That I was going to say 183. Damn, that's a lot. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, the full patch notes are out there now. But yeah, it looks like everything is good to go. And then you had an update. You found that
The ARG
Doritos
thing,
bag.
every day on the teaser website that you can go to, they've been there's lines that are redacted with dates, and every day they're unredacting the lines, I guess, or I don't know. You can see the lines of text, and it's teasing, and it looks like there's enough dates to lead to a Wednesday reveal or the next step maybe, but hopefully it's just a trailer and a reveal at this point of the next Call of Duty game, which is all but probably Call of Duty Black Ops Doritos.
Yes.
Exactly. Cold War, Mountain Dew.
So we should know more about Doritos next week. I did it again! Damn it! We've been talking about Doritos, and I went grocery shopping and didn't buy Doritos.
Oh, you made a mistake. How do you not walk through the chip aisle?
We've really cut back on a lot of crap, and I just, I don't even think about it.
Yeah, you made a mistake, my friend.
But I
can grab you a bag when I go.
Yeah, I need my double XP.
Put it right on your back door.
Yeah. Now, speaking of double XP, we ranked up this week, Matt. We beat Halo Reach. We started Halo 5. I feel like we talked about this last week with kind of getting through Reach and some of those combat puzzles. I really enjoyed the final fights of Halo Reach, those final few levels. I think the game kind of continued to stay like a pretty impactful test of skill, but it never felt like too hard. It never felt too easy. I think maybe it was kind of too easy sometimes playing with the three of us, but it was never like crazy. And I think that was really put into perspective once we started 5, and 5 had this big spike in difficulty on Legendary, which, I think that, I don't know. I don't know if it was too easy or not, but I liked what we played. I liked seeing it through to the end. And I liked that that hidden room in Halo Reach we got to see. In the,
that was really cool,
level.
Yeah.
I had known about that from when Mark and I played that together, but I had never actually been in it or seen it, so that was cool to be able to see that. And kind of just, like, remind myself to look into Halo lore and get excited about Halo lore before Infinite comes out, and as we get into 5 and there's all these characters who I'm like, what? Where this? Oh, that's the guy from ODST. Okay, sure. Oh, there's Luke Cage. Oh, he's in the Halo. All right. How did you feel wrapping up 5 or wrapping up Reach rather?
Reach. I think it got stronger as the game went on. Thankfully. It's a solid Halo game. Like it fits mechanically right up there with the rest of them. It felt like a Bungie Halo. It's you know how the story ends. It's kind of, I like how like it's very grim, but they try to tweak it in a way. It's like, well, you lit the match for the win. It's like whatever. You still it is what it is.
Yeah.
It was fine. Still, at the end of it, I still think 3 or 2 are like kind of neck and neck for what I want Halo to be. I think Halo 3, I lean more on the multiplayer side of it, and 2, the campaign. But no, Reach it's good. I think it's better than the first one for sure. I also did the thing in 1 where you just backtrack the whole back half of the game. So
that sure was Halo. How about 5? We step into 5. We had a hell of a time getting going with that switched up in control scheme.
That's a fucking beast, man.
I did, after you signed off, I found a setting in there called fish sticks, which I believe is, COD.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might resemble more of the Call of Duty layout. It might be a little more.
But there's something. I look through them, and every time, I think it's the thruster pack, it just throws off the control scheme just by a button, and you can't tweak it to customize what you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the control scheme, I'll get used to that. It's just jarring to go from playing the anniversary for the amount of hours that we did to playing 5 for the first time ever and seeing that as a thing.
And it's funny, because I remember that happening to me when I played through it first, but coming back to it, knowing that was going to happen, I was still surprised when I was like accidentally throwing grenades when I thought I was reloading, or aiming down sights when I thought I was throwing a grenade, or whatever. Yeah, it's tough, and I think it also like that game difficulty is a lot higher than what we were just used to with Reach. I think the combination.
The thing with the older Halo games, like it's a mechanic change that makes it more difficult. It's the fact you have to pick up your teammates now. Before it was like, all right, one of us kind of stayed back. We don't cycle it out, but one of us kind of knows to not be so aggressive. Other two die. You stay back. You respawn, and you just kind of cycle through. This you get penalized for doing that, because if someone goes out, then you have to go pick them up. And we have the AI character because we're not playing with 4. It's just the 3 of us, but they're not dependable to get you up. So
no, and usually when somebody goes down, it's because they were not in a safe spot. So then reviving them becomes that much more difficult.
Yep. And there's no crawl mechanic that I'm so used to seeing in any of these other ones where there's a down system at. So the fact you can't move to that little bit of rock is a huge killer, especially if you just peek out just enough. And there's no prone in Halo either. And that's something you kind of take for granted too when you're so used to doing it in Warzone. You just kind of prone underneath that little crate or you get your boy up. No, it's a little bit different in this.
Yeah.
I might run through that by myself on the regular difficulty just to
get used to it.
Get used to it. Just go through the story at my own pace.
Yeah.
And not get stuck on legendary parts, because I want to play through us with legendary, because that's the only time I play legendary with these guys or these things is with people. So I definitely want to run it all the way through. But it's going to affect how I feel about the game if I keep running on legendary and that's my only playthrough.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I told a friend of mine from work about it who historically hated 5. And he reminded me of a level later on in 5 on Legendary that I forgot about. And when he said it, it all came flooding back to me. And I was like, oh, we're already having a tough time on the first level. I forgot about
343 does something interesting with it. I think they just make their enemies bullet sponges, man. It's just...
Yeah.
I think that's where the increase in difficulty comes. Not necessarily playing 5 on any other difficulty, but as much as I made fun of the weapons in 4, once again, that was my only main run through 4 was in Legendary. So I don't think it's necessarily the guns. I think it's just that everything is just absorbed. It feels like every yellow bar.
I'm shooting
health,
it doesn't do anything.
It feels like a yellow bar health in Destiny.
Yeah. You should be doing something to weaken the shield, but there's nothing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Here's the thing. I was excited for us to get to that, and I still am. But I also felt like we had this kind of ticking clock.
Yeah.
Before Infinite that I wanted to get to. And then this week, studio head at 343, Chris Lee, made a little post. What said... Today I want to share an important Halo Infinite development update with the community. We have made the difficult decision to shift our release to 2021 to ensure the team has adequate time to deliver a Halo game experience that meets our vision. Apparently work from home has affected them pretty hard. That team in particular. So, this is a bummer because I was really excited about that game. But also, I would rather it be delayed than it be bad.
Or Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, take the time. That's fine. I can wait. I've got Halo 5 to keep playing. I've got other things to keep playing. Gives me more time to read all these books I'm excited to go start reading soon. There's stuff to do. My thing with the Halo Infinite delay is now it makes me ask the question, what the heck's going on with the Xbox Series X? Obviously, they... Right in the wake of this, literally minutes after this happened, a big post hit Xbox Wire confirming that Xbox Series X launches in November. But where do you fall on this? What does this mean for the launch of a console to not have? Really, that was the game. That was the one that was cool. There's a new Xbox. There's a new Halo. There you go. Now it's there's a new Xbox. And in the blog post announcing Series X is still November, Xbox reiterates it's launching. It's built to take advantage of the most powerful console, ray tracing, up to 120 frames per second, faster load times, quick reset, yada, yada, yada. But then the titles they lead into, it's like, hey, here's what you're going to be playing on this thing. It's like cross-generation titles like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dirt 5, Gears Tactics. New games for Xbox Series X launching with Game Pass, The Medium, Scorn, Tetris Effect Connected, and backwards compatibility across 4 generations of games. And they keep leaning into that stuff, but like, there's not a big thing. And like, does that matter anymore? You know, like, I think this year's a weird one in particular anyway with buying a console because of the state of everything. I think both of these companies get both the advantage and disadvantage of the current situation. I think it helps them in some ways and hurts them in others, but like, I don't know. What do you think?
This is the key thing now for Xbox, and they better be monitoring the progress of their cross-gen games. They need to make sure that their console is rumored to be the more powerful one, but is it the more powerful one? And what looks better? Is Valhalla going to look better on Series X, or is it going to look better on PS5? And I think that's where Xbox might have to lean into that at the launch window, is them saying that they're the more powerful console, their games are going to run better, and they're going to look better. Even if it's a marginal difference, neckbeards will take advantage of a marginal difference, and that's where they're going to have to go. And they can keep counting like Halo's coming, but yeah, that's where they're going to have to beat PlayStation, because at least PlayStation, Miles Morales, like, it is what it is that little side story. I mean, maybe not little, it's still going to be like 20 to 30 hours, I think, but at least 15.
Sure. But even if it was 10, it's an exclusive game that you're not going to get anywhere else.
And a sequel off one of the most successful selling franchises on PS4, and critically acclaimed, it crosses all the check boxes. And the thing is, like, PS5 has already come out and said, like, hey, you need a PS5 to play some of this stuff. So that's like more in PlayStation's core. It's not consumer friendly, but like, that's what's gotten me like, well, I may as well get it now so I can play Miles Morales, because I know I'm going to need it for X, Y, and Z. Xbox already came out and said, like, hey, you can kind of do whatever. The only reason I was thinking about a Series X was to maybe play Halo if it wasn't cross-play, because they haven't really officially said that yet, and I didn't know where you all were going to play. There was a lot of question marks there. But now, there's no shot in hell that I'm getting a Series X at launch.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think my feelings haven't changed from a few weeks ago when I had that revelation that I want an Xbox, but I need a PlayStation. That whole predicament I found myself in. And I still feel like if right now I had $500, I'm assuming these things are $500. If I had $500 to spend and I was going to buy one, I think I'm still buying an Xbox Series X. I don't know why I still feel that draw there. I really don't. I really can't explain it. I have no need for it. I have no need for either of them right now where I sit. But not having Halo, it's like, all right. I mean, I'm future-proof, just like you said. I bought it because I'm going to have to buy it at some point. And that's kind of where I feel like with this. But yeah, there's not a compelling thing. And I didn't consider the third-party comparison side of it. But you're totally right. Like, that's an IGN headline. That's Digital Foundry breakdown video of side-by-side. What looks best? Where does this play best? And I think that came into favor for things like, I mean, you think about the beginning of this generation. You had stuff like Rise, Son of Rome that were like technically really good looking and took advantage of what that Xbox One was. But at the end of the day, you couldn't walk away and say that it wasn't running at 900p versus the 1080p, that we were seeing on PS4. And then when the mid-step stuff happened with PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, it was very much the same thing of like, Xbox couldn't not be the most powerful after, having to eat that turd at the beginning of the generation. So Xbox One X needed to always be the best. And that worked in their favor, I think, for this back half of the generation. I think the PlayStation still remained dominant in the sales and in the public eye, or the general whatever. But I think that those numbers can't be ignored. And I think you're right, like getting out ahead of that immediately, because they can't do that. They can't wait until midway through the generation to do that again. And I also think this generation is going to be a really weird one, a weird split where I think PlayStation, right now, the way it seems, PlayStation's going to keep doing what it's been doing, and Xbox is going to lean into the service side of things. And I think by the time we get to PlayStation 6, I think we're having a much different conversation than we are now.
Yeah, probably.
I don't think we're going to be talking about PlayStation versus Xbox next time around. And I don't mean that one of them is going to go away. I just mean that I don't think there's going to be a versus anymore. Or I think who's versing who is going to be a little different. I think
honestly, the dynamic's going to change. I really do have faith in Xbox's, like, you know, cultivation of their first party and how much they invested into it. Like, I just think this, you know, this upcoming generation, it's always been like, well, the PlayStation has exclusives. PlayStation has the exclusives. I don't know if that's going to be a good argument anymore. I think they're both, I mean, they're both going to have their exclusives, but I think they're both going to be on par as far as quality. It's just going to be whatever kind of game you lean into. It's just the thing for Xbox, they got to get some of those, they got to get some new properties up and running. They really only have like Halo, Gears, Fable. Yeah. When you think of the PlayStation library, I mean, granted, they've been around a little bit longer, but they can always lean back on something historical too at this point, which is, you know, nice, like Twisted Metal.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't be hard for them to bring in an indie dev or a smaller internal team to work on a Jack revival or, you know, something like that. Or, I mean, we're seeing it now with that Sackboy game. Like, that one didn't really light my fire, but
that Sackboy as a mascot.
It's right. It's pulling into that. Like, they still have Sly. They still have Infamous. I mean, they have properties they could lean into. You're totally right with that. They have stuff that they never really brought back. Like, I was thinking recently, like, I never played the Resistance games, and I was on the internet.com trying to find that Resistance PS3 trilogy because you can't buy it digitally, and I was like, maybe I'll play that and buy it, but like, can't play it. And I was like, I studied PS Now for a couple weeks, so I was like, let me see if it's there. It's like only Resistance 3 is there. So
Killzone, like, that's, you know.
Yeah,
it seems Guerrilla's moved on, but that's still, like, that could still be their first person exclusive.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think we'll see more about that stuff sooner than later. I'm really, I don't think we've talked about this, even you and I, but we definitely haven't talked about it on the podcast. But I've more and more tried to get away from talking about leaks on the podcast. Stuff like the Doritos bag is kind of like
funny,
hard to ignore, right? But like the stuff where like servers are hacked or like things are brought out in a way that's like, maybe. I feel bad for the people involved that were affected by it. This next story is a little different. In line with the Xbox, a robot white Xbox controller appeared on secondhand sales sites inside of a box that was labeled "Don't open until November 6th." It very much seemed like somebody ripped off a truck and then was selling stuff on the internet. Is kind of how this seemed to me. But the side of the box confirms that this robot white Xbox controller works with current Xbox One family of consoles, Android, iOS, Windows 10 PC, and the Xbox Series X and S consoles. Another thing, not unlike the Suicide Squad game that is like a worst kept secret, but this Project Lockhart, this smaller, or maybe not smaller, but cheaper is kind of the thing we've been hearing. The lower entry point cost-wise of the Xbox Series X is seemingly called the Xbox Series S, which makes all the sense in the world when you think about the last consoles. When you think about how I think Xbox wants to Applefy its Xbox brand, I think this makes a lot of sense. But at this point, it seems like they confirmed November for Xbox Series X, so that PlayStation has to say something now, right? Like, they're just like, hey, here's the ball. They hit it back over, and now PlayStation has to say something because what's up? You coming in November, right? Like, now that the light's back on there where they can say something and then Xbox can come in $50 cheaper and a week earlier or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, even though that November 6th date seems like something that could also be, that could be tentative just for accessories launch and then the consoles after if they need to, or if they want to go on the 6th, they can. If they want to go before, they can. I don't know.
I wonder how far in advance you have to have all that stuff planned out, right? Like, because you have to come up with a date. You have to, like, especially when you send that stuff out early, you have to put a date on it before you can unwrap it. And it's not easy to send a memo out because some employee's not going to see it and he's going to put it on the shelf. So
Well, and not even that, but like, there's so many things that are like, so many people that fall into that chain of like distribution, announcement, marketing, advertising, like all of that stuff. Like somewhere, someone's going to break that thing. Not because of intentionally wanting to leak a street date of this stuff, but just because it comes out. So if it is known, it's going to come out one way or the other. So I don't know.
I know. I mean, the rumor is August. There was supposed to be another event for PlayStation. No, so it wasn't the State of Play. Yeah. With more details, probably your price, maybe a look at the UI, maybe another game or two. But yeah, I think August, by the end of this month, we're gonna have a better idea of PlayStation. I also think we're not done with Xbox yet either this month. I have a feeling we're gonna know what both are doing.
Yeah.
Because you kind of have to now, like especially if you're expecting people to spend $500, you just can't ask them to spend $500 in 2 months.
That's the thing. I mean, that's what led me to the top of the podcast when I mentioned cackling, thinking about Black Friday. I was thinking about this, and it was like, they've got to announce this stuff. Like, and then I thought about it. I was like, in my head, I was like, we're only 5 months away. But I was like, we're 3 months away from November. Like, 3 months. Like,
literally almost gone to November.
We're nearly, this whole year has been just gone till November. This 2020 is the year of gone till November. Someone's got to say something, I guess, at some point. Now, let me ask you this. Series S. Where do you fall on this one? If that's a thing.
I mean, maybe.
Let me phrase it like this. Think about it, thinking about the iPhone model, right? Like, obviously, you're going to grab the best of the best. But if you think about it, like what's the latest run? The 11 and the 11 Pro? Like, technically, the 11 is nearly identical to the 11 Pro. You might not have the same camera, you might not have whatever. So, like, the Series S theoretically has the same chip, the same whatever. I don't know what the trade-off would be in a Series S. Smaller hard drive, I assume. Diskless, probably.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing. As long I'm not opposed to a Series S like being the Xbox in my console and having the PS5 as like the powerhouse, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to a console, because really at this point, like the only Xbox games I'm really playing on Xbox are the ones on Game Pass that are exclusive to console and aren't on PC. That's kind of where I'm at, unless we're playing Halo or something together that's not crossplay. Yeah. So like I'm not opposed to getting a Series S either. That's the case. It depends on the price, what the price difference is, and it also like if it's got to be a bump above the Xbox One X. If it's not a bump above the One X, or if it's like super similar, then it's not worth it. I almost would rather get an Xbox One X, just upgrade that way. But no, I wouldn't do that. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, I wonder what they'll do with this thing, just because, and I'm sure not long, everything I'm about to say is going to be obsolete. But like, I feel like they either go the really low end, like go Apple TV style, where you're streaming to this thing and you're downloading games, or because I feel like that's a better selling point than PS5's discless version, because that PS5 discless version is not going to be more than $50 cheaper than the regular one, right?
Yeah.
Everything is the same. It's just no disc drive.
I mean, you can look at the Xbox discless, whatever they call that, whatever they end up calling that.
Yeah,
Xbox
that was $50
One S.
less than the standard One S.
Yeah,
so why not just spend the $50 and have the option? But I think that discless drive versus the One X, then you're talking, right? Like, you do sacrifice some power, but you get into the console for next to nothing. And that and the One S are off the shelf right now. Right now, you can only buy the One X, and even that's been sold out. So it's kind of like, does this step in and fill the gap? And then you get to a point where in a year, you're not buying or thinking about the one family of consoles. You're just buying a Series X or a Series S. It's just a matter of those two.
I say, like, I think you nailed it. Like, there's something very appealing about, like, hey, look, you can get this cheaper box, but because of, cloud computing and xCloud, you're going to get a Series X caliber game on this little box.
Yeah, and if you do that, you couple that with like their approach to financing, where they've done that financing deal where they bundle in Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. Like, That's a hell of a deal. Like, not only do you have Game Pass Ultimate built in for the duration of your financing term, but you get the box, you get xCloud built right into it. I mean, they could make a pretty compelling argument for a different audience, right? I think when you have the people on the grind that are like, they need the best of the best, like it still comes down to Series X versus PS5. But I think there's a compelling argument for Tommy Target, who's going to wander into a Target and buy, like, yeah, I need a new Xbox. What do I want something new to play games on. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, like, that might be the one for old Tommy. Matt, this has been a massive show, which is funny because when I sat down and was looking at everything for this week, I did not think we'd go for 3 hours almost. But we're going to wrap up with one final Quake fact. Quake fact number 5, the Dope Fish was a drawing by Tom Hall that became popular with fans of Commander Keen, where the fish first appeared. It would later make appearance in other games from id Software. In Quake, you can find the Dope Fish in E2M3, the Crypt of Decay. It's hidden in a secret area that displays the message, "The Dope Fish lives." Fun little Easter egg. And there's your Quake facts.
I knew none of them.
Hey, now you know. Next year marks the 25th anniversary of Quake since its initial release. There's still some Quake Champions tournaments happening pretty regularly. People are still playing that game. I thought about reinstalling that game recently. I just remember the load time or the matchmaking times from when I last tried to play. But I think it still has a pretty popular or a pretty passionate fan base. So I don't know. But I will say I've been trying to keep my PC hard drive clear because got a hot little simulator dropping on Tuesday.
Funny you say that. My PC's either bugged or I just was too late to the switch, but all my Xbox games are installed into my solid state, and I can't switch it without like reformatting shit, which sounds scary. So I had to delete the Master Chief Collection and Sea of Thieves
from the PC.
From PC to make room for this special guy.
I'm really looking forward to trying out Flight Simulator this week.
I'm really looking forward to this pre-install, really helping out with the wait times on the actual install.
How is the... oh, wait, so you can't do the big chunk right now. You can only do the 10 megabyte?
It was still 1 gig as of like Thursday or Friday.
Thought I could get it done. Because I don't know how much room I got to make. I got to delete some stuff off there, but I don't know how much to delete or what to delete.
We're going through all this work for like 2 flights and then like, all right, got my fill.
Yeah, I'm going to fly to Tokyo and then turn it off. So I don't know why I even care, but what else besides Flight Simulator are you going to hop into this week real quick before we say goodbye?
I'm going to look at the status of Warzone. Hopefully that's all fixed. Maybe there's something weird with the Cold War reveal in the middle of the week. Maybe not. Yeah. Who knows? I'm maybe not done with NASCAR Heat this weekend. I mean, it'd probably be done by the time Monday comes around.
Yeah, but heck, you might buy it at that gold discount price.
I still poke at Fall Guys once in a great while. And, yeah, that's about it. I might buy Tony Hawk. He might have convinced me. So I might get that warehouse demo. I don't know. When's the release date on that? I forgot.
It's September 4th. I honestly, unless you're really itching to play 2 minutes of the warehouse demo at a time, I wouldn't buy it yet.
All right.
If you're really like, I want to try it, I want to play it.
But if you convince me to look more into it.
Yeah, I think it's good. I just think that like I kind of got my fill for right now until there's more to do. There's really not much to do than just feel what it feels like to play Tony Hawk, but you're not leveling up, you're not earning anything, you're just playing that empty warehouse doing tricks, which is fun, but you only have 4 songs playing, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah. That said, I'm going to still poke around it a little bit this week. And we've got more Halo 5 to jump into. I've been playing Arkham Knight. I got a good way into Arkham Knight this past week, so I kind of want to see where that takes me. I wanted to play City, but that's not on Game Pass, and then I didn't want to spend another $20 for Return to Arkham. So I jumped into Knight. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
First 4 fifths of that game are fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. It's still really good. It's funny, when back then everyone always complained about the Batmobile, and I didn't agree, and now I'm like running through Ace Chemicals, and I have to stop the remote into the Batmobile to break down a wall, and then I go down an elevator, and then I have to get the Batmobile to lift me up from the. And I'm like, oh, there is a lot of Batmobile, huh?
I didn't hate the Batmobile in the beginning of that game. It was the end. It was too heavy on it at the very end with that large.
Yeah, but even the puzzle solving, I'm like, oh, this is a little. Driving is fun, but the puzzle solving stuff is. Other than that, I don't know, man. Session, still kicking, cruising. I almost bought Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider, that second one, because it's on sale too, and I didn't beat that, and I don't know.
Oh, so no Marvel's Avengers. You're not going to re-download that?
Nah.
Okay.
No, I'm good on that. But that'll be out same day as Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2 if you're...
Oh, even more reason to spend money then.
Yeah. By the time next week happens, DC's Fandom will have happened, and we're going to wait to record until we've seen whatever the WB Montreal announcement is, and then the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. The official title of the game has been revealed. So we'll know all of those details next week, hopefully. Other than that, you can follow us on Twitter. You know what? You can follow the Free Cheese on Twitter at SomeFreeCheese. You can follow Matt on Twitter at MattyIce131. That's it.
You're done. You're off.
It's gone, dude. Gone. I finally got it off my phone within the last 2 weeks. Yeah, I just don't care. Even Some Free Cheese, if you follow that, you're just going to get a notification there's a new podcast. But if you're listening to the podcast and you're subscribed, you're going to get that anyway. So, whatevs. Podcast at thefreecheese.com. I do check that, though. Send us an email. Let us know what you thought about Avengers. Let us know what you think about Xbox Series X. I want to hear what people are feeling. What console are you leaning towards? Are you leaning towards one? Do you care?
What's a good hot flight? What airports do you recommend?
Yeah. Let me know where to fly. I want to know where to fly. And finally, Visceral Violation Carnival Cannibal available now. Go support our friend Ben and your friend too. Enjoy some good death metal blast beats. I shouldn't explicitly say, but it's not all blast beats. It's very good, though. That's it. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. We'll see you next week with another Free Cheese podcast. Bye.